Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to another live. You may have noticed that this is a St. David's Day special. Happy St. David's Day to those that of you who are Welsh and celebrate it. I am useless at the Welsh language, so it is on the ticker, because I ain't giving that a go. I've got, obviously, the handsome one once again, the fantastic Liam from Travelling and Brew, or Travelling Hebrew, or whatever you like to call him. So if you're watching over on Liam's channel, do enjoy your adverts, but if you're over here with me, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Yeah, so we're streaming this on both channels at the moment, so it is going across to both, just so you're aware. Luke's idea, let's see. But there are no adverts. What are you on about? There should be no adverts. Like, turn it off on YouTube.
And Mersey Beers, no need to boo me for actually being on time. I'm disgraceful. And I was exactly on time because I timed the live click of the button, and it's 4 seconds to kick in perfectly. So I done my homework for a change. But before we get into it, with it being the Day of the Welsh, and the leeks and the daffodils and the cheese and stuff like that, I've kind of got a question for Liam, and it is whiskey related. And do you know who this guy is, man?
No idea. No idea at all. All I can think is he's a guy called David and he's Welsh. There you go. I have no idea.
So yeah, I don't know if anybody in chat knows who this bloke is as well, but this is David Lloyd George. Now, David Lloyd George was a British Prime Minister, but we're not here for the political side of things. But this chap is the chap that created the 3-year, 1-day whiskey rule for maturing. So this chap was disappointed in how many distilleries were open, and people were just like doing a free-for-all and saying this is whiskey and kind of advertising it as so. So Mr. Lloyd George said, we can't be having that, and created the minimum maturation of whiskey. Thus, in doing so, actually created a premium product that whiskey is today. So if it wasn't for a Welshman in a country not really known for whiskey or distilling, did a lot for the whiskey industry. Let's just put it that way. So that's just kind of like a little tidbit to kind of get us in. And I did say about Wales not really being known for distilling their whiskey. However, there was pot stills in Wales in the 4th century, but they didn't really do anything with it. Roll on to the late 1800s, early 1900s, and the Welsh created the original Welsh Whisky Company. And this bottle, bottled in 1900 in Bala, North Wales, at the Fondoc Distillery, this bottle's now worth £5,000. So if anybody's watching and fancies taking a little dip into the pocket to buy a bottle of whiskey, there you have one.
Is it any good?
I'm not sure how good it'll be after 124 years, but actually it can't be too bad, can it?
It looks like it's light struck.
A bit like myself, to be honest. Hello, Mr. B. Home Brews and Bee Reviews. Sir Rob, welcome along. and Sharky. Hope you're doing well. So, kind of going in now, we've gone for a Penderyn whiskey. Now, the reason why we've gone for a Penderyn whiskey is there's only 2 whiskey distilleries in Wales to this day, and Penderyn's kind of the choice, or Aberfoyle's. So we kind of went for,
isn't it?
yeah. And Penderyn was around, started in the 1990s, was fully up and operational at the turn of the millennium in Penderyn, in the Brecon Beacons. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I kind of want to show a little bit of the whiskey and what we're going to be drinking. So we've got 3 bottles. And this is their Dragon series. And they've called it Dragon because these were created for the international market to promote not just whiskey and Penderyn, but also Wales itself. If anybody doesn't know, Wales is pretty short on products that get exported. They've got a really short list. So we've gone for the Dragon series. It's 3 bottles in a gift pack. It's £30 a gift pack. Can't really get it much cheaper than that. Yeah, and the 20 ml bottles, or 20 cl bottles they are. So we've gone for in the box, it's Myth, Legend, and Celt, or Celt, or however you'd like to pronounce it. Just take it with your accent and go with it. So, anything you want to say, Liam? Because
I'll let you do all the speaking in a moment. Just let me know when we're going to get into the whiskey at this stage. I'm sitting back and just enjoying. I'm just a viewer watching you.
well, what I'm going to do then, so obviously it's a little bit nerdy to talk about whiskey. I know you're not all here for whiskey talking nerdy. You just want to see us drink and get drunk and be merry and have a good time. That is promised. Don't you worry. So Penderyn, I said that they opened in 2000. Now this is their original distillery. This is in Penderyn in the Brecon Beacons. This opened, like I said, in the early 2000s, and it was launched by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, now King Charles. So don't hate, we're not being royalists and pushing it on you. Don't worry. They've kind of grew quite a lot. Penderyn as a brand, they've branched out internationally. They've moved on. They now export to 50 countries around the world. So, as most places do, they need a second site. So along comes a little place in Llandudno, and Penderyn think, this will be fantastic. We can open up a second operation, a second distillery. But what we're going to do is we're going to keep this one for peated whiskey. So this distillery is all about Penderyn's new range. Now, this was opened in 2021. There is no whiskey yet produced at this distillery because, as I mentioned earlier, thanks to David Lloyd George, it has to sit for 3 years and 1 day to be called a whiskey. Roll on 2 years, head to Swansea, and you think, well, why not? Let's just go for it. We've got the funds. We're now raking in millions and heading for the heights of competing with some of the Scotch distilleries. So they open a third. Clearly, this one's going to be quite a while, but it is up and running, or partially up and running. So Penderyn is investing very heavily in distilling in Wales, and they don't just do whiskey. They now do whiskey, gin, vodka, liqueurs. They're just cornering the market, and good on them. I told you it was a bit nerdy. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. It's interesting that they all go down the same route of expanding their range, don't they? They start as one product, but once you've got a distill set up, they always seem to branch out, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, they started like most stories start, sat round a table in a pub, drawn on the back of a beer mat and thinking, well, we can give this a go. It's coming up to almost 100 year. We haven't had a whiskey in Wales since it closed its doors in, I think it was 1910. So they're like, let's just go for it. We can't have the United Kingdom and Wales not be represented in the world of whiskey. I mean, it kind of shows that now internationally a lot more people understand Penderyn than they do English whiskies, because English whiskies is really new to the market, a lot of them. You've got your normal, like your lakes and your kind of London whiskey and stuff like that, but much of the new ones that have opened are still even yet a bottle. So Mr. Beast is located in the back streets of London. No, indeed. St. John's Day in July. Mank White whiskey.
Yeah, moonshine. It's moonshine. That's what it is practically. It's not. I guarantee you, it's not got 3 years on it. It can't be 3 years. Anything over a week, and I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a good thing that this was actually brought in 3 years, 1 day. I mean, we done the bourbon, the 12 whiskies on the 12 days of whiskey last month. If you haven't seen them, go over to Liam's channel because he needs the money. He spent a lot in the last year. Nobody's watching his videos, and he's desperate. He's about to be turfed onto the streets and become a Oliver Twist of the YouTube world.
Me?
He isn't really, but it sounds a good story. I mean, just in storytelling mode at the minute.
Jeez, this is like something like Britain's Got Talent. You're doing a sob story trying to sell something here. What's going on?
That's the way to do it. But you never know. We might do something on moonshine further down the line. Who knows? Hi, Twisted. Hi, Joey. So anyway, I've rabbited on enough. It's actually been over 13 minutes, which, considering I'm a former politician, shouldn't really shock me, but it still does. But there we have it. So we're kind of going to go in an order that was recommended through the Penderyn site and the press pack. Liam's actually got the full pack. My box came a little bit damaged. So nice 3 bottles in a pack. And the first one we're going to go for is Myth. And there you kind of see the Welsh dragon on there. Like I said, these bottles were designed for the international market. The actual core bottling at Penderyn does not feature the Welsh dragon. So let's get into it, Liam.
I feel like I'm pissed, but it feels like my label's on wonky. Disgraceful for a premium brand like that.
Well, what more can I say? They've got a nice little waxy paper covering the lid. A little pop there off the cork.
Yeah.
Ooh. So we're going to do these in order. Obviously, we're going to start with Myth, then Legend, then Celt. But we're going to do it 3 ways. So we are really going to jump into the review of what does it taste like neat? How much does it change when water is added? That is Penderyn's recommended serving choice. And then will it mix? So we've both got a different mixer. I've gone for the Coke or Coca-Cola. Other brands are available. And Liam's gone for drums.
Soda water.
Soda water.
Just to make sure that it's not going to over sweeten, and more importantly for me, there is one that's supposed to be peaty in this, isn't it? Which we're leaving till last. And the idea is I want to not overpower the peatiness and with Coke at that stage.
Yep. But we're going to give them a try and then see, basically pull them apart. That's what we're going to do. We're going to put them through the ringer and see which is best for us. Obviously, everyone's palate's different. So anyway,
Stuff.
just put that cork back in there. It doesn't open up to the elements too much. So kind of colour-wise, we've got a very light honey. Kind of like an aged toffee, if that makes sense. And one thing I do believe is Penderyn do not add any colouring whatsoever to any of their whiskey. And we'll get into that a little bit further on because I'm going to nerd out again later on. So do stick with me on that, sir.
Just looking at them all in colour there.
But what you getting, Liam? Aroma wise?
It's going to sound really boring, isn't it? I am getting your standard sort of citrus and toffee. I know you might say butterscotch or something on those lines, but I'm getting like citrus and toffee mainly.
Yeah. So there is a nice kind of complexity with it. It's multi-layered. You get the citrus. You kind of get the more like a fudge, more like a Devonshire fudge than anything else. But it kind of there's a sweetness to it, which is not off-putting. It feels like it's young, but it's kind of got a little bit of character to it. So the cask that they've been held in feels on the aroma that it's actually imparted a little bit of that character. And what we will say is, because it's the same for all three, that Penderyn uses a Buffalo Trace bourbon casks for all these whiskies.
Okay, so the X cask is all coming from Buffalo Trace. Okay,
all Buffalo Trace.
That's an interesting arrangement they've got set up. Is there any link between them then?
Well, the link is a certain gentleman that was a founding father within the world of bourbon, and kind of wanting to link the heritage between them. And actually, I'll throw that out to chat. Does anybody know what that link is, or the person who that link is? I don't mind if you Google. It's entirely up to you. But if you don't Google, then top points to you. But let's go for a taste. And
Yeah, I'm thirsty. Cheers, man.
Cheers, buddy.
That's really smooth. That is very smooth. That's amazing. But it's got a heat that builds, hasn't it? The heat builds up,
Yep.
and the pepperness and the drying takes place.
Yeah. There's a tropical kind of undernote to it. So you get that lovely build up of heat. It's not straight away. You know, it kind of just rolls through the palate, but the heat is kind of staying within the mouth. It's not going down into the throat.
Yeah, you can feel it all around the tongue. It's engulfed the tongue area, and as you said, it was the rolling heat that built up. But the heat comes, it maintains, as you said, no burn in the throat at all. But there was quite a bit of pepperiness I was getting off all of that, and it's still there. It's still there. It's like I wonder how much of the bourbon has had an impact on this. If it's quite a light whiskey, how much the cask has actually imparted the bourbon sort of pepperiness.
So the way I understand it is that's where the flavour from each of these are coming from. It's directly from the casks.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. We'll lead into it between this one and the next one. Let's get these and then we'll go why. Twisted had a question. She said, can I ask, does it make you feel like a giant when you hold that glass?
I've already answered yes in the chat. Yes, it does make me feel like a giant. And it's even better when I hold up two like this. And I'm like, yeah. I certainly feel like a giant.
Evening, John, 78. I think that's over on Liam's. So yeah, with this, what I will say is it tastes younger than what the aroma was given off. It kind of tastes like a young whiskey. And by young, it's kind of developing. So the finish isn't lasting. It's very short. The main thing with it is just that heat, that little tingle on the lips. But the actual flavour of the whiskey dissipates quite quick. It's kind of over before it starts.
I know I've taken a second swig there as well, but it does just leave like the heat and the pepper on there. I feel like the heat takes the longest to go away. It dissipates very slowly. But as the heat starts going, I feel like some of the pepperness comes back again. So the heat, when it builds up, seems to just hide it a bit, and then it disappears because of that. And then when the heat goes away, dissipates, then you get a bit more pepperiness left. But it does have an immediate drying effect. It's smooth, but an immediate drying effect. But I don't think that hangs around for long. I say when the heat comes in, creates a bit of salivation at that stage, doesn't it? But yeah, it doesn't hang around much longer after that.
Yeah. So obviously that was neat. We're going to pour again, and we're going to add around a mil at a time. We're kind of going to feel our way with this one, but this is Penderyn's recommended choice of drinking, is to add a little bit of water to it. So we're kind of going to see what that does to the whiskey. Thank you, Twisted. Ooh, tingle on the lips.
Tingle on the lips, lifetime on the hips. Is that what we're talking?
Like a Greg sausage roll.
You adding your water, yeah?
I have indeed, man.
All right, I'm going the old traditional sort of straw method and adding in a few drops like that. Immediately, I can see like the oils in the whiskey sort of just part on top.
Yeah.
But that's what it's supposed to do, like break up a bit.
Now the aroma to it has changed.
Yeah, I was about to say there's more sweetness to it
now.
now.
Yeah, it's sweeter, a little bit more delicate. It's kind of almost gone into the realm of a Glenfiddich in the delicate nature of that whiskey. It's not too bad on the nose.
I think that, yeah, I think it smells better actually now. It's brought out more of, as you say, the lighter notes. So before, when I was just sort of getting that citrus and well, you said fudge, like butterscotch, vanilla sort of thing. Now there's a bit more depth to it. It's sort of toned that down, but added in other scents that are probably hidden before to our nose. I'm interested to see how that's going to impact the flavour, because I say if it's activated the oils, then will it create a more peppery taste on the tongue when it goes over it, or will we get some of the other flavours coming through?
Yeah. Well, let's go for it, mate. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Oh, now, kind of a total different drink.
The heat isn't there as long, but I'm getting bitterness off it now. I'm getting at the back of the mouth, back of the tongue, I'm getting some bitterness off it. At the front, I'm getting a bit of that pepper. Pepper's not all over, it's just at the tip of the tongue at the moment at the front. But
I'm just going to clean my palate a little bit before I have another taste, just to make sure.
Okay, I'll follow you at this stage. Some water to cleanse.
So the dryness that we were getting with that kind of that little bit of peppery hint to it totally went. As you said, it's kind of gone. There's a little bit of bitterness, and let me just. There's kind of like a acetone metallicness, very fine, just on the finish to it. Hence why I took a swig of water.
I feel that the flavour with this is now all at the back. It's all at the back of the tongue. I'm not getting it all over the tongue, and it's just residing right there at the back. That's where it's hanging around. And as I say before, that pepperiness, the heat, it's just, you get a little bit, then it goes, and now you're getting all of that on the back. But for me, I'm getting quite a lot of bitterness. I'm not quite getting, I understand where you're coming from with the metal sort of element, but for me, it still just comes across more bitter than anything else. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I know it sounds weird. I think I preferred it without the water. I like the smell of it with the water, but I preferred it without the water added. I think the heat and the pepper was really good, whereas with it now, it's sort of lacking.
Yeah, I mean the kind of like that acetone metallic thing, it kind of feels as if like the acidic level within it, like there's been like the citrus has released like a little bit of acidity, and that's contributing to that bitterness. I know that's like very fine and very particular, but that's kind of what my palate's saying to me.
But we all have our own taste.
I too preferred it neat.
Yeah, we all have our own taste, but even still, like with the different taste elements being picked up, I felt neat was far superior, just overall for the smoothness of it, the length that it hung around with the heat. It just felt like there was something there, whereas this, it's not there. It's just at the back, and it's still lingering slightly, but it's not amazing. It's just bitterness that it's imparting.
No, the third review on this one bottle will be the mix, and Twisted, very highly likely, right, that's never going to happen. Only in your dreams. Kind of why we're not putting comments on. But we can see everything you write, so you're doing well. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm going to now add a little bit of Coca-Cola. Like I said, it's entirely up to.
Did you want to do it with Coke now? Because that might leave sweetness in your mouth, or did you want to do the Coke with all three at the end?
Well, I don't want my mindset to change too much.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Because I'm going soda water, so I'm not going to be impacted. But with yourself, you'll need to like.
Well, I am, but I've got plenty of water to rinse.
Cool. Perfect.
But I kind of wanted to keep that profile like right in the mind, where otherwise we can visit it later, and then I'd have to drink it again neat.
And what's wrong with that? Extra drinking whiskey, right?
After 9 decent drams, and we're not measuring drams, by the way. I'm almost halfway through this 20ml bottle. Wait to see how bottle.
I'm not that far in.
Liam's been more conservative than I am. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm saving myself for the one that I know I'm going to probably finish the bottle of. I tried to do a 1 part to 1 part.
Yeah.
I don't think that's come out so well.
I did put quite a bit of whiskey in this one, to be fair, because I knew I was adding Coke to it. So
yeah.
The aroma for me, that sweetness it's still there. It's not the Coca-Cola sweetness, but I'm not getting any caramel. Now Coca-Cola's known for its kind of caramel aroma and scent. This has still got a nice citrus to it. It's all the
mine hasn't changed much at all, as you would expect, because it's just soda water in it. It is very delicate on the nose. I think it's gone along the lines of the second tasting. I'm hoping overall the taste is going to be like the second tasting. Otherwise, I'm going to have to crack open the Coca-Cola in a second.
Yeah. So cheers, buddy.
Cheers, everyone. I mean, the carbonation removes, for me, any of the heat. But I am being left, and even though I've cleaned out, I am being left with the taste at the back of the tongue again. So for me, I've got it at the back of the mouth. It's still there with this. It just literally, carbonation just bubbled all over the mouth, all over the tongue, and then just gone. The flavors weakened, yes, but it's the bitterness that's still residing there. And this is where I'm hoping when I use soda water with the PT one that I get the benefit.
Yeah. So mine doesn't lose the fact that there's a whiskey there. Now, quite often you'll have whiskey and Coke to hide the whiskey, so you can't really tell that you're drinking it. This really smooth. That is, I think that's probably one of the best whiskey and Cokes I've had in a long time. And that's kind of saying something. Very smooth, very balanced. It's kind of took away the carbonation out of the Coke. But what it's added is, it's added that little extra fudge caramel flavour to it. So it's actually working very well now with the flavour of the Coke, but it's not being took away from it. I like that. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I was going to ask something else regarding connection, but it's fine. I think mine's playing up, but my internet seems to be working fine here, so that's all that matters.
It's probably just mine, mate. That works very well with a Coke. Good stuff, Penderyn. Thanks, Twisted. Hope to see you again when Steve's bored you to death.
Oh, brilliant. I'm going to say for me, it was best neat. After that, I would say that I would take it with soda because it has less of the overall bitterness compared to when I just added a bit of water to it individually. The only thing, as I say, it seems to take away from more of that, the little bit of pepper that I got at the front of the tongue and over it. So it's sort of losing it, but the reason why I'm saying I prefer this over the neat with a drop is that I felt the neat with a drop was just a negative flavor in the end for me. It was just bitterness and not anything else coming from it. But this just means it's sort of hiding the flavors a bit, which isn't what you want, really. You want to be able to taste it more.
For me, really enjoyed it neat. The little splash of water, kind of, that little bit of bitter edge, kind of took away from the actual product itself. Mixing it with the Coke. Now, obviously, the mixer is supposed to create like a whole new different drink entirely. It's kind of done that. But yeah, for me, I'd still have it neat. The mixer, we're kind of throwing that in there because we know a lot of people, well, does it mix all right or doesn't it? But yeah, I still prefer that one neat. So, but it's a good start, I think.
Yeah, I liked it neat. It was interesting. As I say, it took a lot of the bourbon cask elements from it. I did like the heat building. That was really nice, the heat building on it. But before the heat even hits, it was so smooth. It was really smooth as it went over the tongue. And then, as I say, you get that heat building. Really, really nice. I'm going to look to see what's next in the list. It's not that one, is it?
It's the next one's Legend.
Oh, it was the one I pulled out then. Right, you
good
were going
evening,
to fill us
Slurpee.
in with something, weren't you? You were going to. Has anyone answered in the chat the question that you posed?
No, nobody got it. So going back to that question that I asked before we started, the link between bourbon and Wales and kind of the founding father of it. We were, of course, talking about Evan Williams. And to me, it was kind of like when I put Wales and then Evan Williams together, I was like, yeah, of course, it just makes sense. Evan Williams, it's a Welsh name. But when you think of American bourbon Evan Williams, you think that could just be somebody that was once worked in a cornfield, opened up a bourbon distillery, and that was that. But yeah, it kind of like surprised me a little bit. So that's kind of why I added that little tidbit in there as well, just to see who knows about their whiskey. Sharky does say, if you add water, why don't they just proof it down then? Now,
Well, that is cask strength, isn't it? Going down, isn't it?
so this is kind of where I'm going to get just a little bit nerdy again. So Penderyn in the Brecon Beacon's original distillery have a very unique pot, and it's called the Faraday still. Now, this was designed by David Faraday. Now, the term Faraday might be popping in your minds and thinking, like Michael Faraday and the Faraday cage. Well, it's the same family. This is a relative of Michael Faraday. Now, what they did was they've created, it's an old hybrid. So you've kind of got the hybrid of a pot still and a column still. So it kind of goes through both. Now, what Penderyn do is they take the spirit, and what they do is they take it up to 88%. So when it enters the still, the liquid's at 88%. That then goes up to 92 to 94%. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, an extra 4% on top of that, it's then classed as vodka for distilling purposes. And the reason Penderyn do this is, one, you're getting higher ABV. But two, as I mentioned earlier, they don't add anything. And the higher the percentage when it goes into a barrel, the more the flavour of the cask that it's going to impart. Now, Penderyn do this, and they can kind of get some of them flavours without maturing them for like 12 year, 15 year, because the proof is so high. So they can keep it in a cask for 5 year, and it'll still be pretty good, as if they've left it for a much longer period of time. So
based on that, they would potentially be losing quite a lot of the Angels' share each year, because a higher proof means you're potentially losing even more to the atmosphere, isn't it? So that must impact them on a business scale.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of the reasons why they use Buffalo Trace. So Buffalo Trace, when it comes to bourbon casks, their product imparts much more flavour. So actually they can retail it higher as more of a premium product. So yes, they don't get as much out as some Scotch distilleries. But the product is essentially a little bit better. And I know if you're Scottish and you're watching this, don't kill me. I don't want to be hung, drawn, and quartered just yet. Maybe wait till next month when I'm actually in Scotland for that. But that's kind of the whole premise behind it. So the Faraday stills are very old still. And luckily, Penderyn have it at their disposal, which is pretty neat. So I'm not sure if Liam's frozen again. Yep. Liam froze. Who knew? I think his head is just so overwhelmed with that information I've just given him. He's just like so immersed into it. He's kicked himself. I say it's two different people. Hi, Chris. How you doing? Just going to wait for Sir Liam to get back in. Friday, best day of the week. It is indeed. Wednesday, my Friday. Only work 3 days.
Hello again. Sorry.
Hello, my friend.
My network,
Hello.
I could sense my network was playing up because I was trying to stream and it kept going right with this. So I'm hotspot much faster.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be me because I've got 5 bar, 5 bar, 4 bar.
No, that's
so
what I wanted. Yeah, that's what I wanted to just. I was checking before, and I think it was definitely me, and I could see like YouTube was going offline for me, but this was staying on. But it's fine. Right. Did you want to? Are we on to the next one then? Have I joined at the right time?
You have, mate. You have. But I just thought that was quite good or even useful information.
It
that
is. I
Penderyn are the only place that do
reason behind
that Faraday still.
Yeah. What they need to do is they need the Faraday still inside a Faraday cage, and that's it then. Double Faraday.
That's it. Now that's marketing. That's Jack Daniels level whiskey marketing. So we're going to move on to the next one. And the next one we're going to is the Legend. And again, you can kind of see the colour within the bottle. If I take my head out the way.
I mean, when you compare the two, there wasn't much. There's a slight colour difference, it looks to be, but not much. They're very light, aren't they, in colour?
Yeah. And probably the reason for that is, as I mentioned, they use the same casks. Which are all Buffalo Trace. Probably the only way they will be slightly different is if they're left a little bit longer. You know, I understand whiskey distilleries when they say we're going to make a premium product and then they add all this waxy paper to it that you can't actually get into, and then you just think
it's premiumizing the it's not actual the product itself, it's the productization, isn't it? The bottle they've put it in, the packaging. That's where they've tried to make it premium.
Yeah. Ooh, a nice little pop once again. Not much at all of the cork, that has to be said.
Again, it's a very, very pale colour for me. Very pale.
Yeah.
Yours always seems darker on your camera, but this is looking very pale for me.
I'm just trying to get aroma. There's not much coming from it.
It is the smell of the whiskey. There you go.
I'm getting like green apple, a little bit of pear.
I'm picking up spice. That's all I'm picking up. I'm getting some sort of spice notes on it. I can't even. It seems very delicate. I can't even tell what exactly that is I'm picking up, because it's riding on the actual alcohol alcohol at that stage. So it's very, there's not much in it.
Now, if we take the aroma from the last one that we've just had, this one to me kind of, the aroma seems as if it's like a refill cask. Like they've kind of, so they've used the cask previously, but then they've refilled.
So second flush, third flush. So
yeah, they're kind of diluted. the aroma of the cask.
Disgrace.
I know that's again nerdy, but please bear with me. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. But yeah, there's not a lot to say about it. But let's go for the taste, mate. Let's see what it's like on the palate.
I think this one again is going to do well with a bit of water added to it. I think it's going to bring out a lot of the flavour that's in, a lot of the nose that's hidden away at the moment. So those oils, broken apart. But yeah, I'm hoping the taste is miles better than a nose, so it doesn't follow on the nose.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
Ooh.
Green apple, slight toffee, pepperiness. There is that heat once again.
Yeah, but the heat is, for me, before it was all over sort of thing. It's just centered right at the front, the heat for me this time. But that is, the flavor is really good. The flavor is really good. It's got that subtle sweetness that's going with, as you say, the apple pearish element. It's really nice. It's, oh dear, this is going to be a very easy drinking for a neat. I like it.
Yeah, there is that freshness. I think that's the word I was trying to get out. I was like, and I think it's the green apple. Now there's a sweetness there, but it's kind of just delicate and just teetering on the edge with that little bit of pepperiness.
Again, you get that edge of bitterness on it. So on the first one, I didn't get the bitterness till we added the water. This one, it has bitterness. It's just ever so slight, and it doesn't hang around too much, but it is there. It is there. There's a bitterness to it, but otherwise, it's just very delicate. It's very fresh. It sounds about right, as you're saying, but it's so delicate with it.
Yeah. It's kind of like, imagine if you were a horse that's just been put out of pasture and you've got that fresh, lush grass. Just it for some strange reason, it just like reminds me of grass. And again, I think it's just that freshness. Like you've got that apple, you've got the pear. There's like a little bit of right on the finish, like way back. There's a slight earthiness, kind of like a charcoal or like a charred wood.
I could go with, for me, I could go with, after you leave it, woody elements are in there. That seems to be the final flavor it leaves in my mouth. I said it's not got that bitterness. The heat dies down in the mouth. Wood definitely lies in there, but the original flavor as it comes through is so nice. It's again smooth. So I'm assuming with how they've done it and the water they're using, this is going to be, all their whiskies are smooth. I'm just going to assume that straight away now based on these two. That's it. Blanket, they're all smooth.
And their water's straight out of the Brecon Beacons National Park. It's as pure and as mineral rich as you're gonna.
There you go.
Get water.
They have that heat and not always pepperiness, but they're picking up from the barrels that they're in. They're picking that up, so that I assume that's going to be across all theirs. That it's going to be very similar, but this one was on that citrus It was, you know, your little apple fruit, green apple, as you say, and then a bit of citrus, and it leaves, a wood in there. But it's really nice. I think I'm going to have to potentially top it up a bit before I put the water in.
You know, I think I'm going to join you in that one. Yeah, it kind of, so a little bit afterwards, yeah, within my mouth, it reminds me of going to Beamish, the Living Museum in Durham, and then you go to the Pit Village where it's got the coal mine, and the air has got this woody, earthy kind of taste to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you,
my palate.
It's on my list. It's on my bucket list. Meant to go there, didn't get round to it, and it's still on my list. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like when you're in a mine, in a sense, area. Yeah, the air is different. Right, I'm going to add the water droplet to this now. I'm going to try and put a bit less in this time.
I'm going to finish this one that I've just poured in between top.
There we go. That'll be enough to. It does bring out the nose a bit more for me, but there's still not much on it. It's very. I'm not going to use the word bland. It's very light in what it imparts. I get a slight. I had spice before, but with the spice, I'm getting an undertone of like butterscotch that's going in there now.
Yeah, I was kind of just thinking that it's gone from that green apple pear to a much sweeter honey caramel.
It's definitely changed it. Just a few drops and the oils that, you know, suddenly break apart. It really does change it. It's definitely more nose, but I'm still going to say it's quite a delicate nose on it. It's not massive.
Yep. Cheers, folks.
Cheers.
It's toned down the heat very slight, but it's kind of took away from the palate.
Yeah,
it's softer, but it's not as delicate or brought out flavors. It's kind of took away from it.
Plain. It's very plain. It seems to have lost that element that was there before. There's none of the green apple. There's, as you say, a lowered heat at the front of the tongue, but there isn't all the other flavors in there. So we get a better nose, but out of that, you're compromising and losing on the flavor that's coming through. That's what it feels to me. Yeah. Again, if you could have a drop on the side and smell it and then drink it neat, that'd be much better. You know, smell that one, drink this one, perfect. But
yeah, I kind of want to like bite into a Granny Smith's and just drink and just get that aroma, because it's kind of missing now. It's like, but the freshness is gone. The freshness isn't there anymore. It's kind of mellowed out so much on the palate that you don't get it. Like, it's not as crisp. And funny enough, I've kind of lost that little bit of charred wood, charcoal.
It feels like, I don't want to say the word, it just feels doled down. I'm going to say, I don't want to say bland, because that sounds really bad to say it, but it's very doled down everything. I've just done water on my mouth to just do it clean again with the droplet that's in there, just to see if and how it impacts it with a clean mouth at this stage.
You know what, man? I know you said you can't say it, but I'm just going to join you with the word bland. I could find many other words that would suit the whiskey community, but you know what? Bland is probably the best way to describe it. Now, as a Penderyn recommends adding water, for this one, I wouldn't add it. I would change that kind of on their marketing to say, just drink this neat.
I feel it's also added a dryness to it. I feel it leaves a dryness at the front of the tongue. No wood, like we were saying before. There's no wood. The heat dissipates really quickly. That's at the tip of the tongue, and then we're not getting any of the sort of fresh green fruits sort of thing, are we? We're getting nothing like that. And there's still that little bitterness, but it's more dryness. Another one that I'm saying, the drop adds to the nose but takes away it from the body.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like, obviously the whole point of drinking whiskey is you want it to be on the palate. And I mean, I love it sometimes because I've tried so many different single malt whiskies now that the aroma has been absolutely amazing and outstanding. But then you take a sip of the dram and you think, it's not quite there. And I know this is kind of all to do with the way it's distilled. And I'm not sure if this is a Faraday one.
Okay. Because Faraday's in their the original distillery, not in their Clondodlow, is it? Well,
so the two new distilleries haven't got any whiskey yet because it's still too young. So they've got a pot still. Yeah, so they've got the Faraday and then they've got a regular pot still. I'm not sure if this is just a regular pot still. I think the first one we had was Faraday. And there's a difference between stills within whiskey. And the easiest way to say it is the higher the liquid drops, so a column still imparts more floral, lighter, delicate flavors to a whiskey, which that first one had. This one's kind of, can I say, bog standard?
I've gone down the route now of adding soda water to it. I've tried not to do too much because I've got a feeling it's not going to complement it so well. Just based on how the few drops of water done, I've got a feeling it's going to be the same. And if it's that way, then I'm concerned how your Coke's going to be, because it could be that this is one of those whiskies where you can't taste you've got a whiskey in your Coke.
Yeah. And I've done exactly equal parts like I did on the last one. So
yeah, same, but I've put less in this time. So I've not gone towards the little star thing at the top.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers. Let's see.
Cheers, buddy.
Oh my God, that's it's even worse. No, it just doesn't complement it. Sorry, I'm gonna say soda doesn't complement it. Soda water.
But mine's added the Coke has added the sweetness to the whiskey, that little bit of caramel. But you do lose a lot of it. Now, in the last one, within the myth, the whiskey paired extremely well with the Coke, and in fact, it didn't really take anything away from that whiskey. This one's kind of washed out the Legend whiskey. It's kind of balanced there on taste, but that's the sweetness of the Coca-Cola and not particularly the whiskey. It's not bad, but it's nowhere near as good as that first one.
Yeah. I think it was neat. Actually preferred this neat over the first one. So I think Legend neat was better than Myth neat. But if you're mixing at all, Legend just loses everything. And I'm currently searching for something that I have here, and now I can't find it. Typical.
Yeah.
Under the wires. I'm going to join you quickly. I'm going to have some Coke with it. Because I just feel...
It's better with the Coke than it is with the water.
Yeah, I felt like soda done it nothing. I'm only doing a very, very small amount on this. So again, equal parts I've gone, but I've gone for tiny amounts. So you can see it's not much in there overall of either the whiskey or the Coke. You can smell the whiskey's in there.
I'm just going to take this
We're getting a nice little show, are we?
After 6 decent drums down, mate, I think it's safe to say that I'm warming up slightly. I don't need my Nepalese.
You can still taste the whiskey in the Coke. You can still taste the whiskey in the Coke, which is great.
You didn't taste the Myth with the Coke, so obviously, I mean, you can't compare it yet, but he might do later, folks. Give him a chance.
No, the Coke sweetness is there. There's an undertone of the whiskey, but the whiskey just imparts a generic sort of whiskey element. You're not getting anything beyond that. Overall, I don't rate that either. I think both with the Coke and with the water is an O for me.
Yeah, I totally get that.
All right.
For me, I'm kind of like just at like this point of 2 down out of the 3. I'm leaning more towards Myth over the 3 different tastings of it. As a collective, I think probably Legend on its own, neat, with that freshness, is probably...
So, yeah, if we're looking at it this way, if we're looking at the way you say, then Legend as a neat is better out of those 2. Myth is better as a mixer for Coke and soda.
Yeah.
But it all rests on this final one, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Funny enough, I've drank more of Myth than more of Legend than Myth at this stage. Quite a chunk more.
You'd be glad to know I poured exactly the same, equal.
So my Legend is at the same level as yours, whereas Myth is still up there. Because when we put water in again, I just wasn't for it, whereas Legend, you can see, gone your route with it.
Yep.
Now, that's the one I was looking forward to.
Yep. So this one is Celt or Celt or however you want to pronounce it. This one, color-wise, it's colorless. I know that doesn't look it on my camera. My camera's because of the lighting. This is almost colorless. There is not much.
I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, you can see on Liam's. Let me just put you on thingy, mate. If you hold them two up again next to each other.
So I'll turn the label that way, and then I'll turn this way. I mean, it doesn't show up so well on the camera, but this is darker. This is just so clear.
It does slightly.
Yeah, but this is so clear. That is interesting because normally the reverse, where it looks darker in the glass and then you pour it out darker in the bottle, you pour it out and it gets lighter. How light is this going to be when we pour it out?
Yeah. Now, as we said earlier, with the casks. Now, these were put first into Buffalo Trace cask, but then they were matured in a quarter cask of smoked peated whiskey. The suggestion is it's probably Lefroy quarter casks that they've used, but
so that's interesting. So they created whiskey, but unlike most peated whiskies, they haven't actually used peat to get the flavor. They haven't like smoked peat around it. They've taken an old cask that contained a peated whiskey. Okay, so the peat on this is going to be I think it's going to be low, but I don't know at this stage. It'll be interesting to see.
This one tells me that this was made in the Faraday still, because to try and get the slightest bit of smoke, you would need to put it through that still. Like I said, I think it comes out at about 94% ABV before it goes into the casks. And it's kind of it's diluted then down. These are all 41%, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that.
But don't forget, the interesting thing on this will be, because it's in a quarter cask, so it's a smaller cask, meaning that there is less liquid in there, but it's more liquid is in contact in a sense with out of what's in there with the barrel. Although it sounds weird when I think of actually mathematical wise, no, but yeah, it's the idea of it should be more peaty. I'm really intrigued to see how this comes across, considering it's not peat being put in, it is peated through the barrel. And you said Lefroy, and it's funny enough because the last glass that I've left for this is my Lefroy. So nicely timed to put together there.
That was just a water there. That wasn't me gulping a full glass of whiskey.
Yeah, we believe you. We believe you. All right.
Not just yet. Give it time.
Let's get this open. You got a nose on it from the cork this time?
Slightly. More than I did on Legend.
Okay.
More than I did on Legend.
I wasn't getting any smoke elements off the nose, but I think you're probably more likely to get that sort of peaty notes in the whiskey based on how it's done rather than the nose. But that was just me smelling the cork. Let's see. Oh,
I quite like that, you know.
That's an intriguing, nose.
So there is a smoky element, but it's delicate.
Yeah, I was going to say,
really.
So it has come across. The peat is there, but the peat is not overpowering.
It's kind of like it's dancing in my nostrils. It's kind of like, oh, look at what you could have won type of thing on Bullseye. You know, it's
I love that. So, question then. You're not a massive peat head, are you?
I'm not, no.
Would this be more... Could this be that sort of bridge to bring you? Like, this is a peated one, but not peated. Just because that nose is very inviting, but it doesn't say to me massive peat. But it does say you are going to get a smoke element off it, but it's not going to be massive smoky.
Yeah. So obviously we haven't tasted it yet, but on the nose, it's really drawing me in. It's really saying, try me. And, you know, like Liam just said, in whiskey, you've kind of got a few people. You love those that like peated. You love those that really like Ardbeg and Lafroy, like really peat monsters.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got those that are more delicate and balanced and kind of space-sidey, if that's a term.
Yeah, well,
I'm using it anyway. But this is kind of saying to me,
it's those three
have a
regions.
taste and see what you find.
Yeah, I like the smell of that, and I'm very, very intrigued what they get.
Could I say it's almost like a dancer in an adult bar that's like kind of enticing, but you're kind of in. Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of them in London.
Yeah, the different sort of adult bar in Soho, if you're interested. They do offer table dancing. I think they say on the signs. You see it everywhere. All right,
well, I reckon I'm going to jump into that. And there's the colour again. Like I said, my lights is kind of a amber LED. So
I'm just wondering if I do. Actually, it's quite similar colour. I thought, you know, normally when you pour it out, it gets lighter, but that has not got lighter. That is the same as the bottle for me because there's no colour. It's light as you're going to get. Right. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Slancha. Oh, wow. I'm impressed by that. So, weirdly enough, it has heat again. So, it's not in bourbon. There's heat. There's not the pepperiness that the other ones may have had. But there is a heat to it. But that smoke was there. Like when it was still in my mouth and I was swirling it around, the smoke was immediately coming through. But,
I'm having another one of them.
Yeah, but it didn't hang around too much. It's still very soft, very delicate. Again, I think this is probably just how their whiskey is. There's a bitterness at the back of the tongue. So back of the mouth, you get that bitterness. But the smoke is I'm not going to say delicate because it has a nice hit that then disappears and then it's a smooth smoke element to it. But that's really nice for something that hasn't actually been peated and just got that through a quarter cast. That's impressive. That's impressive.
You asked me the question before we took a sip about could this be a gap between those that don't drink smoked whiskey and a good level to get into it? That is bang on. That is probably
the gateway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of that juicy little number that says, come on, you know you want to go. Come on, come on. You've got it. So I'll say very balanced. There's a sweetness. There's a little bit of maltiness just within there. Delicate smoke. it's not over the top. You're not going to feel as if you've just been sat on a bonfire and you've just breathed a ton of that bloody burnt ash. I like that.
I do like the burnt ash though, but that's a different matter. But this is really good. I mean, I love my smoked. This is not anywhere near the smoke levels that you would get from Laphroaig, Llangollen, anything like that, Bowmore even. It's not smoke level at all. But it's not also the ones that do sort of fake smoke add-in either. It is perfectly balanced. It is that middle area, isn't it? And I'm impressed about it. But the question I would have is, how many times can you use those quarter casks before you lose it? And part of me thinking they're very small, but you would only get like 2 flushes out of them before you lose it.
Well, I kind of knew that you were going to ask this question. So a few days ago over on social media, I asked the question.
No way.
Yep. And what they said was that those quarter casks they will use a maximum of twice.
Oh, wow.
But it's up to the head or the master distiller to decide whether or not it's good enough to reuse.
But also, I'm guessing if they put a third batch in it because they think it may be good enough, when he tastes it, he'll say that's not good enough for Celt, and then they'll say that may be something else we use it for, and they could create a different series with it or blend it in.
This is why they've opened, if I can get the photo, this distillery, because now this has given me the option now and the opportunity to use peated barley. So this is going to be kind of their smokehouse when it comes to whiskey. We're kind of about 8 or 10 months off of whiskey being bottled out with that. Given if they leave it for the 3 years, 1 day, some like to leave it longer, 5 years, as we know most places do.
Yeah.
But this was opened in 2001.
So
they started distilling in 2001. So
what I hear you're saying here is that potentially next year we may do all the whiskey distillery tours of Wales, which is just 4 of them and 3 of them in Penderyn.
Yeah,
that'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
That'd be brilliant. Yeah, let's visit all of them.
And each distillery. So I've actually seen the press pack that they've put out. They are amazing. You talk about visitor experience and the shop and the bar and immersing into Penderyn. They are very modern. They are very suave, and they're kind of doing all of it. I mean, even their shops are pretty impressive. There's no kind of old school heritage type feel to these distilleries. They're telling you we are a modern distillery and we don't give 2 shits of a stick what you think about us. I kind of like that.
Sod the old guard, we're the new guard. Yeah, I get it entirely. I'm going to have one more swig of it neat, and then I'm going to go in and add some water to it. I'm half expecting this one is probably going to be much better with the water than the other ones. I really do think it's going to be better, mainly because how smoke tends to be imparted in there. And when you tend to add drops of water to the peated ones, it keeps the smoke, but it brings out some floral elements. And I know this is me prejudging. I'm definitely prejudging, but I think it's probably, I'm hoping that it's probably going to be the best one with a mix, adding water in. Mixing with Coke and soda, don't know, but with water, I've got high expectations for this.
Yeah. And I will say, so each of these are 41%. Yes, they've had a heat, but I'd say they kind of feel a little bit better than a 41% in terms of tasting. So kind of loads of people like to go for the standard 46%. 41%. It's a bit. But what I will say is these bottles in the US are at 43%. So I would not read too much into percentage on them, because what I'll show you here is
that's interesting. So are they using different measures to do this, or that looked a completely different bottle? I love that.
Yeah, so these are the large. So they do them in 70 cl bottles.
That design is really nice.
Very sleek. And again, like I was saying about the distilleries, this is them going, we're modern.
But this is the thing. I thought that's what you would sell as the style in the UK, because it looks like a premium brand, whereas the bottle we have is clearly Welsh design. It's got the Welsh flag colours, the dragon.
Yeah.
This is the international version you'd be expecting. You sell this internationally because you're raising awareness that we're Welsh, we're different. Whereas in the UK market, you can position yourself as Welsh. It's not really something that is a standout, unfortunately, because it's not. We're in the UK. It's not a standout position. Everyone's looking for Scottish because they think it's the best. But if they had that design on the shelf, that's very sleek, and that is a definite standout in the UK shelves.
Yeah, and I will say that the actual core bottling of Penderyn is great. The core bottles themselves are fantastic, and what you'll see on the bottles is there is no dragon.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a dragon claw mark on every bottle.
Oh, I love that. Have you got a picture of the bottle at all, or?
I have.
Or have you got a bottle with you? I was going to say, I thought you were reaching back at a bottle there.
I've got a bottle. I think it's downstairs though. But what I'll do is.
That sounds weird. I see what you say. Yes, I remember these bottles because it comes in. Yeah, the packaging is unlike the rest where there's a cardboard box totally around it. This is a presentation box where it covers the top and bottom and has the back, but it's presented to you and that claw is down the front. Yes, I remember now. Yeah. Yeah. People may turn around and go, oh, there's a crack in my bottle or whatever. No, that's a claw mark, love.
and again, this is Penderyn saying we're modern. We're not going to be giving you. We're not going to give you a tin heritage style packaging.
That bottle is also a very sleek design. It's not your normal round. It curves in, doesn't it? So it looks more like a wine bottle. Some of the wine bottles that you get that are out there. That's what it looks like, not whiskey.
And there's actually a video on the Penderyn YouTube channel that shows all these bottles ready to go down at the cooling stage. So they've all been blown, and it's the manufacturing process of the bottle. And it's kind of the packaging is hardly non-existent because they're saying this bottle's the star of the show.
Yep.
We want this bottle on display, not the packaging.
I get that entirely. I love, as I said, when I seen their bottles first, it drew me because it's one of the only, when you go to the premium whiskies, it's one of the only ones that were boxed, but not boxed because it's a presentation box, whereas all the rest are boxed and hidden away. So you've got all your Isla ones in the round tubes, you've got your Glenfiddich's in its triangle tube, and then you've got the other ones in square boxes, all hidden away at that stage. And that's their presentation. Whereas in that shelf, amongst them all, theirs stands out because it's the only one saying, here's the bottle. And it's in the, I say, the premium area. When you go to the non-premium area, they're all just bottles there that are open and visible, aren't they? So they stand out when they're in the premium section.
Yeah, and this is kind of where these type of bottles come in. So obviously this is the Dragon series, hence the packaging as the dragon and the blurb on the front. But the core range does not have that packaging.
No.
And all the core range is exactly the same until you get the premium stuff, and then it's kind of really out there and brilliant. But
Cool. Right.
I didn't think I was going to nerd out on packaging tonight, Liam. That's kind of a...
I've been drinking it down again that I need to top up before I put the water in. Right, drop of water time. I just had a sip of it natural, so I need to obviously clear it again. All right, so got my drops. I'm going to do that. Give it a little swirl. It has muted slightly on the smoke, but it's still there. It's still there, but it's muted it slightly. That's all it's done. I was hoping it may bring out something else, but I'm not. Your nose is better than mine. Are you getting anything like? Are there any other flavors? Noses in there?
It's diluted the smokiness, but it's brought out this
toffee,
citrus, almost kind of like a dragon fruit smell, like a kind of fresh dragon fruit. It's kind of like slightly tropical, but it's got a backbone to it, so it's kind of drawing out a little bit of fruit. So it would probably take a nose to understand that. No offense to anyone that's probably drinking along with us, but it's when you're working in the food industry,
fruit, and then they open it and go, "This is one of the worst fruits, the bloody pill." Yeah, welcome to dragon fruits, lads.
Yeah. Well, I reckon I'm ready for a sip.
I'm intrigued to see what it's going to taste like. Cheers.
Yep. Cheers.
Immediately, the smoke's still there, but actually, funnily enough, call me weird, I think the smoke's more. I feel like I'm getting more smoke and more heat off it. That sounds weird, doesn't it?
There is a whiskey that has just jumped straight to my foremind.
Not open.
Johnny Walker Black.
Ooh.
Johnny Walker Black. That is, yeah, smoky. You get that hit of heat, but then you get that little sweet kind of delicate note on the back. I just drank that and thought, Johnny Walker Black Label. And that's no offense to Penderyn, because me and Liam know, we quite like Johnny Walker Black Label.
I mean, that's the funny thing. Like actually, one thing I didn't check, which obviously the bottle just cleared up as soon as I looked at it, is these are all single malts, and Johnny Walker is a blend.
Mm-hmm.
But Johnny Walker as a blend is obviously one of the better blends out there, and they command a premium market for it, as well as, you know, the global advertising and sales. But I don't think that's anything bad to be compared. I think that's a really good comparison, but also turn around going, this is a single malt that when you add in a little drop of water to it and break the oils, you get a Johnny Walker Black. But yeah, that is, as I said, I feel, for me, I'm getting a bit more of the smoke, but also I swear I was getting more heat off it as well. So it's actually
And that's what took me to Johnny Walker Black.
Yeah, it's a good call.
More smoke, more heat, but there's kind of a flavour that just flows through the palate. That's not offensive. That's very approachable. Sits there, doesn't give you too much, but it kind of says, "Oh, I'll have another one of them." And in fact, I've just done another one of them. So
I was going to say, so with the heat for you, did you feel that the heat transferred as it was going through? So you got it on the beginning of the tongue, and then it finishes at the end. Whereas when I had that neat, the heat was just fully at the front only. Whereas this, it seems to have gone through, and then there's a slight lingering at the back, which is creating that, again, I'm going to call it their trademark, that trademark little bitterness that they have. So there's that little bitterness at the back as well.
Yeah, the heat is now mid-tongue. So it's kind of mid-tongue drawing to the back.
Yes.
It's kind of like the heat just on the tonsils, and it's kind of like giving them a little rub and saying, like, you quite like this, don't you? You pervy little boy. It's just kind of like...
But again, interesting that all of their heat has been contained to the mouth. There's not anything that I felt has gone down through the throat. It's all contained here. There's not been that alcohol burn at all. It's actually been very pleasant. But I'm going to say outright, that with a drop of water is slightly different than the neat, but it's still a really good product. And for that reason, I'm going to say that is my standout for if you add a drop of water. That is better than Myth and Legend. Legend was, we'll discount Legend, but that's better than Myth by a long shot for me. And admittedly, I am biased because I do like my smoky whiskies. I like the peaty ones. But
I'm not a peaty, smoky whiskey drinker. I kind of like that more delicate, floral, well-balanced kind of whiskey. But that's because I kind of work in the food industry. I want to taste different elements and complexities of anything that I'm drinking, basically. So it's kind of plays with me. But this just took me straight back to, boom, Johnny Walker, Black Label. And in fact, if I had a Johnny Walker Black Label, I would have opened it, because it's kind of bizarre how much like that they are with that drop of water.
Do you know what?
Have you got one?
I still have a bit of the 12 Days of Christmas one, don't I? We blackened that, didn't we? Yeah.
You do? Yeah.
Do you have that miniature still anywhere? This is going off piste. It's going off piste. I know where mine is. If I let you have a route around, and then once you've got yours, I can quickly run and get mine.
I reckon, mate, it's probably in my port and sherry box down here. Because when I moved house, I kind of put the miniatures in with the port and sherry.
I've got literally a whole cupboard shelf full of miniatures people have given me over time, along with the ones I've bought for other elements as well. And I try to get through them, but it's not always the case because some of them are terrible. Which is one of the things we tried to do, wasn't it? We tried to...
Oh, I do have a little bit of Glenfiddich.
Oh, that's not smoky at all. That's not smoky, mate. All right, I'm going to just finish this, but then that means I've got to re-pour it and remix it.
I have.
Right, give me a second. I'll be back.
Yeah. Sorry about this, folks. It's just kind of one of those that when I kind of tasted that whiskey with the water, it was just like Johnny Walker Black Label. The slight smokiness, the kind of well-balanced but not obtrusive kind of palate on it. That's just where it took my mind. yeah, small interlude, but never mind. Good evening, Jimmy C. Good evening, Disco. Sorry we're not doing chat as much. We kind of talking more about the whiskey, which I think people are here for. I'm not sure. L to the U to the K to the E. Yeah, happy St. David's Day to you as well, Jimmy. I tried to pronounce it plenty of times off stream. I know how it's said. My accent just doesn't do that any justice whatsoever. So I'm not gonna attempt it. But I hope you're all actually enjoying the show. We're actually going to be talking a little bit after we've done these reviews about plans going forward, because quite a few people have actually told us that we really like when you and Liam pair up and do the whiskey and different type of reviews, and we work well together and stuff like that. So yeah, we're kind of trialing it out.
I apologise. I found it a few minutes ago. I was just talking to other people, and I realised I need to get back upstairs. So found the black that we've done previously. I meant to bring a clean glass, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bit of water to clean out one of the existing small ones.
And I suppose I will just have to drink this so I can clear it out and put Johnny Walker in.
Yeah.
Oh, what a shame. Use Welsh distilleries, unbelievable.
You could drink it, neat from the glass at that stage, but yeah. So this is interesting. I said we've gone off piste entirely, haven't we? So what we've got here is Johnny Walker Black, and then I need to pour in the Penderyn Celt, yep. And mix a tiny bit of water. A few drops of water to it. I mean, the colour difference is amazing between these two. Absolutely amazing, the colour difference.
Yeah, the Celt. So the Celt whiskey is almost colourless. And this is the product of that Faraday still, the hybrid of pot still, column still. Look at that. I mean, just on Liam's screen.
That is crazy.
Tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, look at that colour difference between the two of them. So this is Penderyn, this is Johnny Walker Black, and you can see how pale that is. I mean, this is as pale as it was in the bottle, so it's so pale. Honestly, I'm looking at the camera, and the colour looks exactly the same in the cameras in person. It is so pale, so pale. And then against the Johnny Walker Black, that is a world of difference in colour, isn't it? That's crazy.
Quest End whiskey.
So
Liam might have.
Quest End whiskey. I haven't heard of them at all. Are they? I mean, where are they based? Don't tell me Wales, because that means we've got to have another one in on the tourneys.
Wouldn't be a bad thing.
No. Oh, I hate verifying ages all the time. Just whatever. Born in 1920. Go on. And select what you are. Human. Pre-selected.
Well, while you're doing that, so Sharky's just asked a very good question.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
If you add water, would it taste different if you use the water they used? And the answer is yes. So here in the UK, like most places, region to region kind of has a different water quality. I'm in North Yorkshire. We've got a very high mineral. Our water is the perfect kind of drinking water. and that's why some kind of breweries and distilleries will only use Yorkshire water.
But that's interesting you say that. So, Shark, one of the big things that you tend to find happen is when you go to a distillery in the UK, a lot of them will sell literally a straw, a vial with their water in it that they use. So they have them available, but it's a glass one and it's filled with water, and it's so that you can do the drops into your whiskey, but you only would put 1 or 2 drops in at that stage. But they sell those, but the price that they charge is crazy. But it's more a memento for most people, but it is a way to get their water. The other way is just fill up a bottle from the tap in the bloody area if you're near there. It's the same water. They use it probably.
Yeah.
Well, I know some of them come from Wells. I know that, but yeah.
Well, funny enough, so the Welsh distilleries use so this original distillery is Brecon Beacons National Park. They use a stream that flows past their distillery. Now, I think it's Llandudno, they use the water that's in the natural chamber under the Ord Lighthouse. So that water is kind of a mix between the fresh and the salty.
That's interesting. Yeah, because
but that's going to be added to the peaty. But that's going to be added to the peated whiskey that they're going to be making.
It's interesting that they went to Llandudno, isn't it? Because the last Welsh distillery, which was over 100 odd years ago, they were North Wales, weren't they? So
in Bala,
they've moved back they've moved back into the territory of where Welsh whiskey last was.
Yeah.
Welcome. Hey, I'm new here. Not tonight, honey. Welcome. It's St. David's Day.
Tonight,
we're about to go off piste. We're about to go off piste, aren't we?
So getting back to the show, we've gone off piste. So in that last one when we added the water to the Celt whiskey, the one thing that popped into my mind was Johnnie Walker Black Label. There is a few differences between them, and that is mostly the heat. But I tried this on the stream with Liam back when we done the 12 days of whiskey, and I added just a drop of water. Now that drop of water kind of took me to what we've just had, but it toned down the heatness. But it's kind of up to Liam. Does it taste too different from it neat, or does it, when you add a drop of water, balance it out?
So I've got the one with the drop of water in it. So I've got the Penderyn Celt with a drop of water in it. I'm going to go neat in because it's been probably about 10 minutes since we last had a taste of it. Do you know what? Oh my God, it's scary because now I've got Johnnie Walker Black in my head. But oh well, it's whichever way you want to take it. Is it tiny hands, tiny glass, or just big hands? It's a bit of both.
It's a huge glass. It's actually got hands like Jeremy Beadle, but we won't go over.
My glass is the same size as Luke's. It's just that, I mean, what am I saying? I'm just gifted. Yeah, right. That is smooth. The smokiness is there. There is, as we said, that heat. So there is a heat, and then it transfers to the back, and I do get a bit of bitterness. Definitely, I like it. I like it as a actual drop of water added.
Yeah.
Now for the original product of Johnnie Walker Black, much darker. And a more prominent nose, definitely on it there. Wow.
And like I said, with the neat Johnnie Walker, it's a little bit more amplified. a little bit more heat, tiny bit more smoke. But I had it with 1 drop of water, and I was kind of there with it.
So, if I had a drop of water to Johnny Walker Black, you're saying they're going to be very similar, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too dissimilar at all.
I'm going to say Johnny Walker Black to begin with. It doesn't have as much heat, I feel, as the actual Penderyn. The Penderyn feels to have more heat, but also that flavour is. I think it's not as much. I don't know. I don't feel it's as much. But right, let's pass to the water. I feel like I've drunk a lot more water than whiskey today. That's not right at all, is it?
We will soon sort that out, don't you, Woody people?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, you've already missed Luke doing his striptease. If you rewind back about 30 minutes, he did take his clothes off. Yeah.
If you rewind back 1 hour, 51 minutes and 32 seconds, then I'm sure. If you just watch on, it'll be somewhere.
Yeah, just rewatch. You'll find it. Right. Johnny Walker.
I pour in another kelp while you're doing that.
Mm-hmm. I see where you're coming from the smoke level, but the difference is that I think that the kelp is a slightly more, I'm not going to say complex, dynamic. It has the heat and it has the ending bitterness. The Johnny Walker Black, the smoke hangs around at the end, and there's nothing taking place at the front of the tongue at all. It's all round the mid to back, and it's very smooth, but it does coat it and leave it with a smokiness.
But if you just allow that John Smith to sit on your palate a little bit.
John Smith's?
Johnny Walker. I do apologize, Johnny Walker.
What have you been drinking?
Oh. It's an easy mistake when you've had. I'm not actually even going to look at how much I've had. But actually, when it sits around on the palate a bit, you start to notice that there isn't much difference.
No,
it kind of blends in. I didn't have water between them, so I kind of done one, done the other without rinsing the palate. If that makes sense,
they are similar on the smoke element that's there. I'm just saying, like, for me, Johnny Walker hangs around longer on the smoke element, but I would expect that because of how it's been done. This is obviously not peated; it's through the cask, so it is going to be more gentle. And we said the gateway drug to something that is peated, but I still think, actually, this is superior for me to Johnny Walker Black. I like this more than Johnny Walker Black, even though this is not peated in the same way. This is a workaround of peat, but I think it works better than the black. That is bad, but how much does a single bottle of this cost?
So a single bottle of this, you're talking about £30 you can pick it up for. The difference is this is a single malt.
Yes.
Johnny Walker has 6 different blends of the top distilleries in it. That's the difference. Yes, it's blended, but they've got the 6 best distilleries to do it. Penderyn has just gone, we raise you, Johnny Walker, and your 6 distilleries that you've put together. Now, that to me is pretty fascinating.
This is where it comes in. Like, look at this. So you can go to a supermarket and pick up a Johnny Walker Black on offer, sub 25, if it's on offer. Penderyn is 35 for Kelt. There's a big
But
difference
they're not
there.
in supermarkets that much, are they?
No, they're not in supermarkets. That's what I'm saying. You won't generally find it in supermarkets. But also, Johnny Walker Black, if I buy it, it'll be in duty free, where I get the 1 litre, and it tends to be even cheaper still based on per, milliliter elements. Yeah, I do like it, but it will come back to price point for me would be I'm more likely to get the Johnny Walker Black as a bottle than Penderyn as a bottle. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to buy a bottle, but I'm going to bring that over to India when I go over and gift that to the whiskey lovers over there, because they really love their Johnny Walker Black, and I think it would be interesting for them to try this, because I think it's a comparable product, but actually it's single malt all the way.
Yeah, and that's really kind of what I was saying. Like when it was in my head was, it's two total different things. One's blended, one's single malt. But for a single malt to try and compete with a blended whiskey from 6 of the best distilleries in the world is pretty neat. I never thought of any other whiskey at all when it came to myth and legend. I had that with water, and the first thing that popped into my head was Johnny Walker Black.
Yeah, no, it's a fair comparison. I agree. I still say it is a slightly different product overall, but neat. It's definitely a gateway. Add a bit of water, you do end up more towards Johnny Walker Black, which again is a gateway to your single malt Islay whiskies, isn't it? Because Johnny Walker includes Islay, but it's not entirely, is it? 6.
No.
6 is
6 and a half.
5 is about 6.5. Oh, okay. But I thought 1 was pissed and 10 was not pissed. So which way round is it? See,
but I mean that is. I've had 3 glasses now of that Celt with the water. Yes, we've also done the Jack Daniels of water, but actually, so we haven't actually mixed it yet, which we still have to do. But so far, by adding water to the whiskey, that's the best one.
I agree.
For me.
But I do think we need to go down the route now of I'm going to add it to soda, you're going to add it to cola, yeah?
Yeah.
That rhymed without planning slightly?
That's the way we're going, mate. That's
right. Just making sure I get equal parts. So that is, I know it's wobbling. That is 1 part up to there, and then I'm going to go towards the diamond area to get the second part. So
that is exactly 50-50 for those that.
Yeah, so for all of ours, just so everyone's aware, what we've tried to do is we are doing 1 part to 1 part, so 50-50. Admittedly, it's up to you if you want to do a 2-to-1. Either way, it's all preference, but for review purposes, I know that's wobbling, but that is 50-50. And it gives a clearer idea of how the mixer mixes with the whiskey if it's a 1-to-1. Right, so I've gone for soda, you've gone for cola. Nose-wise, have you noticed a difference?
There's still a nice smokiness to this one with the Coke. It has to be said, it is delicate, it is slight. I do get a more amplified version to it. Within the nose, but actually that kind of outshines the Coke a little bit on that one. On the aroma.
So I used soda water to clear out my mouth, and I just drank it from the bottle. But there we go. Yeah. So nose for me, it smells very much the same. I'm still getting that smoke essence, and it doesn't feel like it's actually diluted the nose. The nose is still the same level as if I had it neat. And actually, to be fair, what I'm going to do, just to confirm it, and not because I'm
And you
going to
know
drink.
what? I think that is the fact that we're still getting the same type of smokiness that we did when it was neat. It's kind of giving away that the whiskey is very kind of balanced and it's happy where it is, because I mean, even with the cork, there should be like a sweet caramel times like aroma from the Coca-Cola. This, all I'm getting is a sweetness, but the smokiness at the same time. So
I'm gonna agree though that I've just poured it neat. The smoke level is slightly higher on this, but the difference is so minute that you're not really gonna know much of a difference at that stage. And I know everyone's going mental over your glass because it is amazing glass. Yes.
So this Escobar is a pewtered Dalmore glass.
Yes.
So this is from the Dalmore distillery. Quite expensive. Most pewter type of whiskey glass it is. It is premium. But for me, it kind of, when people see these Glencairn glasses and think, oh, it gives a nice aroma, which is what Liam's showing there.
People call them snifters. They call them snifters for a lot of the time, don't they? Yeah.
But it depends on the type of person that you are. Is I can get everything out of this because it's open.
Yes.
I can like really get both nostrils in there at one time if I wanted to. I can. It's kind of, it does the job for me, and everyone's different, but it's kind of, yeah, it's a personal choice.
Most of the distilleries, and you'll see it, which we're going to come on to in a bit, when you go on a distillery tour or anywhere in Scotland, most of the time you get these given to you. So all the ones I've got here are from distilleries I've been to. And sometimes when you're there, they'll give you like 3 fresh glasses for the 3 different ones you're tasting. So I've got a shit ton of these, to be honest, at that stage. But the idea with these is that you're able to swirl it and get the air in, and then you're supposed to engulf your whole nose with it. Whereas if you were to just go straight into the whiskey like that, you're just going to get the alcohol straight away. A lot of time they say like you waft it to adjust yourself before you go in, because otherwise you'd just burn the hairs off your nose. But with the open level like this, it's got more air in there to begin with. So it means you can get your whole nose in.
I kind of like the open top. And I'll just answer Escobar. 47 quid this glass was. Like I said, it's not cheap, but for me, it's kind of my favourite glass. So
you were telling me you got a 5-finger discount on it.
I've got a 12 back on there as well. But for me, like you were saying, sometimes you get glasses where you like to sniff and run it across the nose. Other people pull it away. This one opens it up immediately. So you pour it in, and kind of that alcohol burn goes straight away. By the time you give it a swirl, you kind of...
It's a bit like when you get a red wine glass. The idea is that a large glass neck gives that more... It lets you smell the more fruity element flavors on the wine at that stage. The reason why they like snifters is because you can get your nose in, get all the flavors and keep it in there. But as I say, generally you can't just go in because you're going to burn yourself. That you've got to adjust slightly, and then
I mean, I'm quite different because obviously I've worked in the food industry, for almost 20 years, I'm kind of used to it, so I can kind of pick different things out almost immediately. Like I can pick normally 5-6 different aromas straight away. But sometimes I kind of like to wait for Liam, because sometimes I've said my aromas and Liam's like, yeah, I get that, and I'm like,
that's the thing. I think your nose is a lot more intuitive than mine. So when it comes to sort of flavors and profiles, I'm sort of like I can pick out a higher level. But the difference is that you go down the level beneath it, and you're able to break it up. So if I said, "Oh, I'm picking up sort of caramel," you'll turn around and go, "Actually, I'm getting more on the butterscotch level of caramel," and I get that. And then if I said I'm getting sort of like I don't know, soft fruit elements, you'll probably turn around and you're able to get that lower element due to your. It's all palates and noses at that stage, and I just know that you're better at that than me. I can give you a high level of what I'm getting, but you're able to go that sub level and try and identify it more. So you would say, actually, Liam, what you're getting is pear and orange, a green apple peel, not green apple, just the peel of the apple at that stage. Whereas I would say, I'm getting like an appley flavor. And that's where the difference is. I get that entirely. And I know that that's something that is, well, a lot of it's genetic, but also you build up that through what you're doing. And because you work in food, you're used to dealing with that. And that helps you identify flavors more than I do. And that's what I love. Like I can say something and then you return and say, actually, you've said the category, but I'm going to give you the subcategory it falls on. I'm like, as soon as you say it, I'm like, yeah, you've got it. You've got it. My brain doesn't get that. But when you say it, I can sort of connect it or say, oh, maybe not for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We've left this a while, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, this has been opened a bit now with the Coke as well.
I'm going to go in for it.
Cheers, mate. I'll answer a few of the questions once we've done this bit.
So just to confirm, I've gone for soda. Luke's gone for cola. And... matron. I might have to go your cola route at this stage. Again, I feel on my side, the soda, the bubbles of it mean that when you're drinking, it's sort of the carbonation hits off the tongue and stops some of the interaction. That's what it feels like to me. You're losing some of the palate. So we're both drinking the same whiskey right now. So we're on Celt.
You keep talking, mate. I'm pouring another.
That's fine. We're on Celt. We have done the other two ones. Oh, something's falling on the side. Sorry. And I'm trying to line this up. There we go. Losing time. So we have done these two previously. The Celt is the only one that is peated. And peated is not actually peat has been added. It's been added because they use the peat cask. So they've gone to potentially Laphroaig, got a quarter cask from Laphroaig. So that's a quarter of the size of a normal cask. And then they've used that to put the whiskey in. I've added, for my one, soda, because I'm trying not to take away and add sweetness to it. I'm trying to just take that water element that I liked, but add a bit of carbonation and see how it goes. But I think the carbonation detracts from it because for me, it's lowered the peat level because it bounces off that tongue. So I swirl it round, but it's bouncing off. So the oils aren't quite being left on the tongue that you would normally expect. And the heat level's not there because obviously it's being watered down slightly. But there is that bitterness at the end. But I'm interested in how the cola's gone.
So I opened the one can of Coke. I've used it throughout the three. Escobar with we're drinking the same. We're reviewing the 3 bottles exactly the same. This to me, and I know the cork will be a little bit flatter because it's been open a while, but Liam's has as well at the same time. I really like this. This with the cork, smoky, sweet, kind of just gives a nice oomph type of thing within the mouth. It kind of just wakens it up a little bit. And the palate's there, and the palate's like, well, I like the smokiness, but the heat element, and then it's like the cork takes away the heat almost immediately. And it's like just left like a nice sweet caramel, fudge toffee type of note on the finish. And I really like Myth with the cork.
Right.
I don't know now, Liam.
I've taken a swig of the soda, and I've mixed it with Coke myself as well now. I'm going to be honest. That's how much is left of the bowl.
Do you want to say how much is left of mine, Liam?
You've got nothing left. This is coming from a non-Pete fan, isn't it? You've got nothing left.
Yep.
Oh, dear. Right. So, Coke-wise, I mean, the nose is still there with a bit of sweetness.
I don't get how that smoke kind of amplifies over what you've given it. So it was kind of like a fine balanced smoke. We added the water. It was kind of amplified just slightly, but there was a sweetness there. Then we've added it to the cork, and then it's like, ta-da!
It's attached to the sugar in some way, because that is, I'm not going to say smoke bomb, but it is a bloody smoky drink. Wow.
Where did the smoke come from?
That's amazing.
It was the same cook. It was the same smoke we've had all along in this one, and now it's just like, have some of that, son. See you next week downtown.
That is a massive smoke flavour. Honestly, sorry. I mean, I know I'm biased in the sense of smoke elements, and Luke can give his opinion afterwards. Out of this series, straight up, Celt is bloody amazing. So on its own,
I'm going to go for a pee because I just need to get up and dance, and you aren't looking at it, so
you can dance and you can dance if you want to. You can leave your friends behind. So Celt here, absolutely stunning. I love this. So on its own, it's a smoked whiskey that's very subtle. So it's a low smoke. It's not like your general smoked ones you would get. So, for example, I say Johnny Walker Black, even though it's a blend, is more smoked in my eyes than it, both nose and taste. And then if you go to Islay in Scotland, where all smoked stuff tends to come from, they're all heavily smoked. This is that stepping stone. It's not actually smoked directly with peat, as most of the distilleries would do. So distilleries would fire up, they'll have peat, burn the peat, and get smoke in the air, and then it's parts per million that go into the whiskey. And it's something strange. Like, I swear, the most smoked one is normally something like, silly, like 25 parts per million, which sounds crazy. But 25 parts per million creates that smoked flavour. They're not using peat. They're not burning peat to do this. What they're doing is they're going to distilleries in Lafroig, Islay, and we think it's Lafroig, and they're buying the old casks off them that they've been using. And then they're using them 1 or 2 times. And Luke asked this question on Twitter to them. They said 2 times is generally the max that they use it, but they could use it 3 times if it's useful for it. And then they're creating this whiskey. So they're creating a whiskey that is smoked without any smoke taking place. So it's not a fake smoke. It's just smoke that's left in the barrel from whiskey that's soaked in there. So they are getting the whiskey that was in the wood into their whiskey, which creates the smoke. And we've said it's in balance is very similar to a Johnny Walker Black. And that's bizarre. It's totally bizarre that they've able to create something like that, which has no smoke actually involved in it at all. Absolutely amazing. Love it entirely. But when you add it to Coke, it just amplifies it, which you don't normally get anywhere else. You don't. If I was to add Coke to my Johnny Walker Black, it would actually dilute some of the smoke down, whereas this one seems to go up in strength. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. To be fair, I've not got much in this, and I'm going to do it in... I'm going to be honest, I do not use these glasses for mixing. These are pure whiskey glasses, but I've run out of glasses in a sense. So I'm going to quickly mix a little bit of Coke with a Johnny Walker Black. And I'm going to try and get it to... I'm doing it on camera, which is a terrible idea to do. Move my hands. And all I want to do is try and do about half. Don't forget the width of the glass goes upwards, so it's always hard to work out what half is. Oh, I love it. I love it. Your mum. Yeah, that's a common and a half, isn't it? So what I've done, Luke, I've taken the Johnny Walker.
All right.
I've put a Coke element into it. I just want to see, does Johnny Walker carry that level over or amplify it like the single malt does here? And so I don't normally put Coke in these. I normally, these are pure whiskey, these glasses. I don't add anything beyond whiskey, but I'm going to try it. That's the thing. No, it's muted. The smoke level goes down. The smoke level on this one goes up. And I don't even want to get involved in what's going on in chat. Fuck me. I mean,
I do apologise. I was totally...
That's what's going on at this stage.
I was totally Billy Elliot. Like I said, I've had a lot of smoked whiskey, peated whiskey. I've never been a huge fan. I don't mind it, but it's not up there with kind of like my top whiskies. This is just... I'm going to buy another bottle of this tomorrow because I think that as an introduction to smoked whiskey is phenomenal, and it goes well with the water. It goes well with the Coke. It's good. Neat.
I think, Luke, this is the perfect sort of end for it, because not end stream of end of the tasting, because for you, a not massive peat fan, if you get a bottle of this and you have a bit over the next few weeks, I think that's brilliant prep for our next big adventure or our big collab that we've got coming up. So obviously everyone knows...
I can't have too much over the next few weeks because I'm using that now. I'm using that now.
If you get another bottle, if you get a full 70 centiliter bottle, I think it's... Sorry, guys.
It's getting ordered tonight, but don't you?
No, I know it sounds weird. I'm on a chair and I'm pulling myself forward, so it may seem weird to people. Sorry. So, yeah, I think it's all about where are we going with this. So we've done our 12 days of whiskey, and I think it's going to become a sort of thing across the channel that every year we'll try and do 12 days of whiskey. And I'd love people's thoughts and ideas for what we can do for next Christmas. I know it's not even Christmas, but the ideas is great, because in my head I've got ideas like we could do 12 whiskies of Ireland. We could do bourbons. We can do anything along those lines. But it's all about planning, isn't it, at that stage?
And I will say that Liam's actually jumped the gun here. So I don't know how good that Liam's feeling, but we haven't actually ranked which of these dragon bottles that we like.
To rank in a second. I'm just saying, the idea that you
said. Let us know. Do you like me and Liam from Traveling Brews? I know a few people have said it that, you know what, we really do appreciate that content. It's a very good contrast between you. So please do more. I've had that. I'm not sure Liam has, because Liam doesn't really check his YouTube that much. But you know what? I really like it, and we've already called this like a collaboration through whiskey. Whiskey's not the main thing on our channels, but we both love whiskey, and I don't think we can really get away from that. It's kind of set between us, and you know what? We kind of want to do more content together. So whether that's touring or more streams like this, I'm not sure. It's entirely up to you that are watching. What you feel about it. So
I would say ignore whatever's going in the comments. I assume Luke probably may not have live comments attached onto this stream, and if he does, I would say turn it off, and I will make sure it's turned off on my side. No, I would say that because it's personal stuff going on there. I would say that I very much enjoy exploring whiskey. Luke loves exploring whiskey. If we're able to do a collab about whiskey, then it works really well. For us to put out output on the channel for you to see, and I mean it'd be across both channels at that stage. But the idea is, it's if you're interested in seeing that, and it sort of leads on to what we want to talk about, where we're going over the next 2-3 months, in the sense of what we're looking to do. But that's as you say, collaboration and whiskey. But yes, rating time first. Yeah, I have jumped the gun slightly.
And what I'll say is, while we're doing this, there's 7 of you lovely people that are currently watching. Just let us know. Should we do a St. Paddy's kind of whiskey thing over that weekend? Let us know. That there are 7 of you. It's entirely up to you. It's in your hands. So let us know quickly before Liam changes his mind and puts in that no, disgraceful, never again.
I'm not going to change my mind. So the idea is, like, last year was the year of me doing travels, in a sense, with beer, and so I've done quite a few adventures last year. Took a lot of time to edit alongside the job, but I did finally get stuff out. So everything that I put out last year was filmed in probably Jan, Feb, and March, and it took me till October to publish the stuff. So that's just me being bad. But I'm not gonna try and be that way this time. So the idea is that we're gonna do stuff. The idea is try and do some lives, isn't it, over the next hopefully get some done this month and some next month as well, similar to what we're doing now. But then the idea is try and go direct to the source to do some lives. That'll be good.
Yeah. And we're actually going to mention and talk about our next plans, kind of the big project at the end of this one. I know we're well over to be honest, when I kind of put it all together at the time, it did go to 3:45. I cut it down a bit. So I knew it was going to kind of be a long stream for you, all that we're watching, but it kind of is what it is. I don't remember any other stream that's really done what we've just done. 3 whiskies, 3 different ways. This is the review. So
we discussed this, didn't we? It was the aftermath of when we done the 12 days of whiskey. We sort of said we should have actually done the whiskies as a drop of water and a mixer, because the whole idea is we kept coming back to some of the other ones and saying they would be good as a mixer, but we never mixed them to actually confirm it. And this is where this came about, because we talked about it and then we never done it. So the structure for this stream was we should be mixing, because that's the idea. If we say the whiskey isn't good as a neat, then how does it serve as a mixer? And if we just judge and say, oh, it probably is good as a mixer, that's terrible. We need to actually do it as that and give an idea.
Yeah. I mean, we've obviously got plans coming up. Some of that's going to be exactly directed by you guys watching on both channels. And I think that's kind of like what YouTubers should be doing. Listen to yous and take a little bit of direction and go with it. And
I think the idea is we may use community polls quite a bit over the next, especially in April. I feel we should be doing that. So in April, we'll probably be doing community polls and asking you to determine what we're going to do for interaction purposes with you to decide what works best. So we may try a few things, and then you've got to give us what you like best so that we can try and do it that way. Now, I get a long stream like this isn't always the best, so we can always try and condense into smaller streams if that's the feedback. It's you guys that decide what happens.
We'll move on to that. What we're going to do right now is we're going to finish off our review of these 3 bottles from Penderyn.
So, question
I know where
one.
I'm leading. I want to listen to Liam.
All right. Question number 1. I'm going to turn around and say, for you, neat, what was your preferred whiskey? And you know what I'm going to say is my preferred whiskey. So I'm interested to hear what you would say neat-wise was your preferred whiskey.
So I love the smoky element of the Celt, or the Celt, or the Celt, whichever you want to talk about it. That goes back to Myth. I kind of like the Myth. It was a little bit more complex. It was a little bit more delicate. There was different layers. I found the legend, the freshness, exciting, but it wasn't complex enough. The smokiness of the Celt, I like that, but it wasn't complex enough. So that's kind of where I'm going with that one.
But
on aroma.
So on aroma for the neat, I'm totally going to have to agree with you. The idea is, but I'm assuming you're the same way. The aroma of Myth was very inviting. It had depth to it, and it was good. Legend was, I'm not going to, I don't like saying this word. It wasn't bland. It didn't have any character to it. Whereas Celt had, as we expect, the smoke element. So for me, I would say on the nose, when it's neat, Myth wins. Myth is first. Then for me, I'm going Celt because it actually had a full nose. And then finally, I'm going to go Legend in third place because it just lacked a nose entirely. Now, the difference is when we add water. When we added water, I say difference. I don't think it's much of a difference. But when we added water, Myth became even better. Myth was a standout with that water on the nose. With Legend, it just seemed to lack it more. And then Celt, it dropped down, didn't it? There was still peatiness there, but nothing changed. So the nose was still the same. So I know it sounds weird, but exactly the same for when we add a drop of water on the nose for all of them. What do you think?
Yeah,
Your side, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean it. So with the palate, each three, funnily, are quite different in themselves. And actually, it's a very good taste if you want to get into Penderyn whiskey. I think each gives its own unique chance to entertain the palate a little bit. I know going on what I drank that kind of my least favorite was the Legend. It kind of had that, when you added the water, it kind of had that metallic acetone, too much bitter finish. The Myth was nice, very balanced, and actually the water added to it. But actually, my standout with the water was Kelt. I don't know what it added to it, but
I think for me, Myth, when we added the water, it actually brought out more of the fruity nose, which I thought was really good. Whereas when I add water to Kelt, it's still smoke. It's not dynamic. It's what it is. It's a smoky whiskey. Whereas I felt Myth, when you put water in, suddenly it improved it. You went into a different whiskey entirely on the nose. And that's what I really loved about it. So that's why I say for me, water, when you add a few drops, Myth was a standout. It just changed into a different whiskey entirely. Whereas Legend, Legend, no, it became nothing. And then Kelt it's still smoky, but a bit less.
Yeah, so what I like with Kelt is it's kind of a very good all-rounder. And that leads it kind of into the mixer element as well, because it stands on its own. It kind of, you add the water, I had a Coke, which is kind of like probably the mixer that most people will go with, but it held its own, and it did something with the Coke. It balanced out the sweetness. It amplified the smokiness of the whiskey, which I never thought would happen. You had Coca-Cola to a whiskey, to a slight smoked whiskey, amplify it. Bloody hell! What have you done, Penderyn? You are like a wizard on heat. I just don't know.
When I added it to Johnny Walker Black, it muted it, and that's what's interesting. When you put Coke into it, it actually amplified it. So, I mean, I know I'm going to come at it from a different angle because I've done Coke for only two of them, but I used soda water for them mainly. But for me, with soda water, when I added it in, the Legend was doled out entirely. There was just nothing there. The Myth was, I think, again, slightly drowned out. When you added a few drops, the oils created those light citrus elements that were good on there. But when you put that much in, it sort of drowned it out. Kelt, you added it, it didn't go. It was still there. The smoke was still there. So when it comes to, in a sense of nose of mixing, Kelt wins. So just my side to summarize, when we go in sort of neat, the nose, I loved Kelt. When it comes to adding a drop of water, I think Myth won it for me just because it unleashed those light fruity notes. When it comes to mixing it with both Coke and soda, for me, it's back to Kelt again. That's the overall winner on the nose.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. it's very complex, but in a very good way. And I've just been sat there and I'm thinking, I love single malt whiskey, but what whiskey would I put Coke to? And the answer is normally I wouldn't. I'd only put Coke to bourbon, the JD and Coke.
Yeah, it is.
But to a single malt. But this is a single malt.
Yeah, you wouldn't normally
mix not blended.
No.
It's kind of its own unique little monster. And I reckon Penderyn have got some corker on the hand.
Would you say we've done blasphemy by mixing Coke with a single malt? Because I never would do that normally. Coke and a single malt.
I would never do it.
Appreciated as it is for me.
I would never do it, but I understand some people will. And that's kind of like what we wanted to do tonight. We want to take all 3 bottles. We want to do it one neat that most single malt drinkers would drink it as. And then we want to add water. And now the water was the recommended from Penderyn. That's actual from the distillery. So we just had to do that. Adding a mixer is kind of, if I was in a bar and I seen Penderyn on the shelf and they asked for a whiskey and Coke, then they ask, well, what whiskey would you like? Most people just say, oh, whatever. And usually it's the Johnny Walker Red Label. Let's face it, or it's kind of a White and McKay. Oh, I can't believe I said that name, but that's kind of what it is. You know what? I was kind of, there's a Welsh distillery, and kind of like the only real one other than Aberfoyle. I think Penderyn have done a bloody good job. I really do. I think they can stand up there with some of the Scotch distilleries, the Lowlands, some of the Speysiders, and I'm just surprised by them.
I think admittedly, when they first came out, I was just of the idea that it's creating a whiskey brand, but it's in Wales, so it's I'm not saying gimmicky, but along those lines, in a sense of they're going off more a brand location rather than actual product. But I've really enjoyed their product. I feel, especially as we've looked across myth, legend, and Celt, that there is definitely a slight heat element across all of their whiskies. And the pepperiness definitely is more on myth and legend for a reason. It's definitely there because the bourbon that it's in. Whereas when we come to Celt, the pepperiness isn't there. So that is definitely to do with the barrel it's aged in. But they all had a heat that's there. So that's a consistent, I feel, across the product. But also, it's so smooth. All of them are so smooth. And that is definitely the water that's being used. It's such a smooth product. And then because they've not added colouring or anything at all, you end up with a product like that, which is so clear. That is, you are not going to find a Scotch whiskey that is that light.
And really one of my favourite distilleries is Dalmore. And Dalmore has been very open and gone, yeah, we use colouring. And the reason for it is because people love it. They don't want to see a white or non-colourless type of whiskey. The market out there wants darkness to compete with the age statement on it, and people get this kind of little vision in their head that if it's been 15 or 18-year-old, it's darker and more mature. And actually, it's just a load of rubbish. Because actually, whiskey comes out almost colourless. And I like that about Penderyn. The colour within these bottles are the colours that have come out with them casks. Like we said, it's Buffalo Trace bourbon. So it's going to have a kind of slight amber hue to it. I really like that. Sharky says there about...
Right, I'm going to be a second. Mrs. knocking the door. Sorry.
Yeah. So Sharky says about stateside. Sharky, they export into the US. And in fact, in the US, it's 43% ABV. It's slightly higher than what we've got at 41. But yeah, they export to 50 countries around the world, and that list is kind of just growing.
Sorry, Mrs.
So
just came back from a haunted hotel visit. Yeah, all good. No ghosts, obviously, because they don't exist. Right, I know I interrupted you there, Luke. I was going to say, so we've done those. What do we think on taste? What are we going on taste level at this stage for neat tasting? Because I feel like we've agreed all on the nose level how that works. And I just think taste is definitely going to be there might be a difference in it.
So for me, on taste as neat, it's the Celt. That lovely balance of smokiness with the kind of very like citrus rolled into a finely balanced kind of caramel toffee fudge. It was enticing me in. I mean, I'm not lying earlier on when I went, oh, now that is really tickling my taste buds and going, oh, you want a bit more. It really is. And that is why it's an empty bottle. There's nothing about that. Like Liam said earlier, an introduction to smoky, peated whiskey. This is it. If you don't like peated, smoky whiskey, get this. That will tell you or give you a direct...
Oh, what happened there, Luke?
I got... You know what?
So excited.
I drawn so much energy from that. The computer just went, oh boy.
Oh dear. No, I think I'm with you on this. So if you can look the amount that we've drank of it, it shows how much we've loved it. And honestly, the measure of how much you love something is how much you've drank of it. And there goes the final bit of Luke's bottle. But
oh no, that one's already gone. This is this is the myth.
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to neat tasting, Kelp for me. But as I always like to note these, I am biased in the sense of I do like a peaty, smoky whiskey. Don't get me wrong, I do love something that has a massive citrus nose and taste to it, but I will generally prompt and go for I'll pick a peaty one over something else. So for me, Celt is definitely there. When I came into this, open eyes, because I didn't know that this wasn't peated naturally. It was peated through the cask. When that happened, I was unsure how peaty it would be. The peat is really good. It's not a blow your mind out. It is definitely this is a really good level. It's definitely something that you could session. You can go in, have it neat, and you're not going to go, whoa, that's a peat bomb. It's got smoke that's lovely. After the Celt, it's the Myth. It's got to be the Myth. Even though neat, it had actually no. Now I'm thinking, no, I might go Legend. The reason is, I think it was too peppery for me. Yeah, I'm going to sound weird. I think Celt was brilliant as it is. I think Myth was nice, but when it was neat, it was just too peppery, and the heat that was building on it was too much. I've changed my mind in my head right now. I'm going Legend as second when it came to neat tasting. Legend it hit the spot. It was quite neutral in flavour with a bitterness at the end, but it still had the pepperiness at the tip of the tongue, and it had the heat as well, but the heat wasn't there all the time. Whereas I think Myth, the heat built up too much, and then when it dissipates, it left that peppery notes. And I think there was too much pepper for me, which is why I wasn't a huge fan of the bourbon, 12 days of Christmas. So yeah, I'm going Celt, Legend, Myth on neat tasting.
Yeah. Interesting. And Sharky, yeah, I've seen you got so there must be some core range within the US. The gift pack, the Dragon series, they're using as introduction to new countries.
I think it comes down to states, though. Don't forget, it's important.
The states have it. The states have it. It's each individual state within the states.
Whoa.
And the distribution. And I find that with beer, whiskey, any type of alcohol it's a distribution.
I've worked with companies that sell European products to the States, and it's a nightmare selling across the States anyways, how it is, all the taxes that go with it, all the rest, that's fine. When it comes to alcohol, it becomes even more of a problem, because generally you arrive at one port and then you need to get permission to bring that alcohol into that other state, because it's paid US duties, but the US duties aren't always what they want. And sometimes those states want extra duties paid, and it becomes just prohibitive because they pile it up. So I can see why they turn around, and some states they won't deal with at that stage. Other states they will. And as we know, the US is a United States, but it is literally every state has its own laws, regulations. When it comes to alcohol,
it's kind of like 52 countries in one. Never mind states or regions. It's kind of, but there is a channel out there, Sharky, called the Whiskey Lab. Now, Jay and Mark from the Whiskey Lab, what they want to do is they want to bring independent bottling from Scotch whiskey to the US. So they're currently working through all that distribution, legal type of stuff. And they've got a YouTube channel, the Whiskey Lab. And they're kind of developing independent bottling. You don't know where they're going to go in the future, because it could be we'll just import, send, distribute, and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But the two good lads that really, really enjoy that. I mean, they're back over in Scotland within the next week or two. I've actually asked if they're there when we're in Scotland, because Isla's only.
You want to visit? Oh no!
A small place, so we could meet up with them, depending on if time scale and stuff allow.
Let's see. Well, we'll go on to that in a moment, won't we? Yeah,
we will.
Right. Keep it on track, because I know I'm the one that keeps taking off track. When we add a drop of water to the whiskey, for me, Celt stands out. Celt has that smokiness still. Myth is slightly watered down, but it does allow some of the more delicate flavors to come through. And then Legend just it loses it. It loses it, unfortunately. There isn't an element that's enjoyable. It tends to be you leave the bitterness on the back of the tongue, you leave a bit of pepperness at the front, and then you're like, okay. Whereas I think, as we said, like you get a bit of woody aftermath with the Myth and all the rest. But for me, I would go Celt, Myth, Legend when you're adding some drops of water to it. I burped there as I said to it.
Before I give mine, and I know we said we weren't putting any comments up, I will put one up. Ethan and Jack, hope you, the missus and the Burns are good, mate.
I thought you were going to say,
thank you for joining.
Usual, I hope you choke and die or something stupid like that. No, I know you two have the best love-hate relationship on the internet. I love it.
So for people that are just tuning in, me, Jack Howard, and Brad Evans were like the three kind of amigos, the troll amigos. There's kind of like three original ones between every channel that does beer within the UK and the US, and we're kind of the three of us. But just going on what Liam said, I'm in agreement. I really am. It's kind of a little bit disappointing that Legend loses out, because I still think it's a good whiskey.
But
I don't know whether or not Penderyn saying add water to everything counts. But at the same time, Myth, I don't know, it kind of mellowed Myth a little bit.
Myth, I swear you can see the oils on top. When you add a bit of water, you get the oils on top. When you add to Legend, I'm not going to say scientifically anyway, but it didn't look as much of the like oils in there, and the oils are what the nose is getting, and it just for me felt that it was lacking in that. And I said I hate to use the word bland, but it just felt very lacking in nose and in taste. And I was hoping that the nose was lacking, but the taste would follow through. But generally, the nose doesn't lie that much, does it? So if it's lacking the nose, it's maybe going to lack in the taste, and that's how it came across to me, sadly.
Yeah, and kind of like as I was saying earlier, it's kind of like a the weight kind of is. Well, like between the three, obviously we've only been given three. There's only three in this series. But adding water to whiskey, it's not actually the worst that I've ever had. It's the worst out of the three. But it's not the worst that I've ever had with single malt.
We are not
single malt, not blended, but single malt, and it's kind of, I can see where they're going, but maybe the distillery need to refigure the way they market the whiskey.
No, I totally agree with
just
you.
Have it neat, or have it as
I've said is in regards to out of a comparison of them. It's not me saying that this is a terrible single malt, because that's not what I'm saying. It is a good single malt, but again, if I was to compare it to other single malts, I do feel it's slightly lacking in flavour when you add the element to it. But some people do like clean whiskey, and that's where this would come in. It's a very easy drinking single malt whiskey. If you were given this in a pub and neat and you thought, oh no, I'm not sure, you add a few drops of water and suddenly you go, that's an easy drink. And that's where that comes in. And sometimes as I lead on to our next part, when we mix it with Coke, some people don't want a whiskey element in their Coke, do they? I don't know why, but they don't want a whiskey element in there. But that would be perfect for them. But it comes down to an individual idea of what they want. So
Yeah.
I guess, do you want to go on Coke? Because I know that's something we've both done, apart from the only one I've not done Coke is Myth. So I'll leave you to describe that.
Yeah. So for me, the kind of standout on Coke for me was obviously Celt. It just really amplified that smokiness, but there was kind of that sweetness that was just following behind. You know, it was kind of running alongside with it, and that was quite interesting to me. It kind of spiked me and said, "Oh, I really enjoy that." Myth was in second. It kind of still kept its character a little bit more with the Coke. It balanced out the caramel flavors of the Coca-Cola and went with it. I'm not quite sure if you had other drinks like Pepsi Max or Dr. Pepper or whatever, but just with
you were full fat Coke, yeah?
it was the original Coke, because that's the most popular around the world.
Well, unfortunately, we say that, but with the sugar tax in the UK, a lot of pubs tend to pour the other version. So they either give you a Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke, or Coke Zero, or whatever it is. But yeah, so we've gone for the full sugar versions for our tasting. Admittedly, when you have sweeteners, there will be a difference, but I feel it's still going to be along the same lines because sweeteners only amplify the sweetness. So what we've had is lower sweetness level because it's sugar. When you add sweeteners in, you're going to heighten the sweetness flavor. And then what we say is going to be changed entirely, because if we said, like with Legend, that it's lacking slightly, when you put sweeteners into it, it's going to be totally lacking because sweeteners is so much sugar.
But kind of here's that little thing though.
Yes.
Out of the three,
what's the easiest to drink?
Well, the best to drink is Celt.
What's the easiest to drink?
The easiest to drink is Legend.
Yeah, that's the thing. So
and to me, I'm kind of like, I really like one when it's neat. I like the other when it's added water. But actually, the one that I dislike most out of neat and added water really comes into its own when it's mixed. And I kind of find that a little bit strange, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
It totally makes sense, but then it also comes down to individual taste, because when you're mixing, people are mixing for different reasons, aren't they? It's either to hide, disguise, or adapt. And when we tend to mix, it's to adapt. We want to try and bring out other flavors in there. Some people will use it to disguise it so that it reduces it, and others will want it to hide it entirely. If you're going to mix and you don't want a massive whiskey element, then Legend's the way to go. But if you want to mix but still get the flavor, then Celt works perfectly. It amplifies it, so it actually moves it up beyond what you're expecting. For me, it's a weird one. I would say when mixing, I would go Celt, Legend, Myth. And the reason is exactly, as I said, like Celt amplifies the flavor and I really enjoy smoke, whereas Legend mutes it down. And then Myth just doesn't have the right balance with it. It doesn't work for me.
Mm.
But I will say that I didn't have Mythwood Coke. I had all of them with soda, and I had only Legend and Keltwood Coke. But
You
when
know
it
what?
comes to soda,
I think that's appropriate, mate. Like you take a Mythwick Coke.
but the issue I've got with that is that I have to have a Myth with, well, I have to have a Myth natural, au naturel, with a bit of water and then mix it.
I mean, to be honest, mate, at this point, I've had like 18 drums of whiskey, so I'm well and truly into it. What I will do is I'll give kind of like a little overview of Penderyn, and I'm like,
go for it.
You cunning little beauties of a modern distillery. You guys have sat on that pub table and thought, yeah, you know what, we can do something. And I think that Faraday still, that hybrid between pot still and column still, is really giving them something different. And
it's a big selling tactic, but also every distillery, you'll see this as well. Every distillery, soda water, their stills dictate what happens. So they have a dent here, dent there. That changes entirely how the whole process happens. And they will tell you about that. They'll say, like, the reason is they're not changing things is because you'd need to make things exactly the same. What you then get is modern distilleries, which we will again see, where everything is perfectly shaped and it produces what they want. But what will be interesting is over time, when they get dented and they then start producing a unique element and flavor, because the idea is that it still was heating. And if you've got a dent, it changes the heat pattern and wave. And I know it sounds like absolute bullshit, but it does change what is leading through. And it's all about impurities and everything that's leading through. And the more contact with the actual outer area, the difference it's going to create with impurities going through. It does sound like bullshit, doesn't it?
I mean, kind of in a way, the whole whiskey industry and whiskey nerds, like kind of like me and Liam, we just see it all really as bullshit, but we kind of know that bullshit and we're with it and we feel it, type of thing.
I get it, but then I also understand what they're saying with the scientific element behind it, and I understand that element as well. But you sort of turn around and go, to be fair, if you're boiling something, like I boil a kettle, is there a difference if I use kettle A and kettle B? What comes out? And yeah, there is a slight difference because of the heat of the elements that it comes through. But if I chuck some dents in it, what's the difference? Not really going to be much. But when it comes to actually liquor, the actual element that we're heating, then there could create differences.
I can't, like, this is the first time I've ever gone to a distillery that's got that Faraday still.
Yeah.
And the reason for it is because it's the only distillery with a Faraday still in the world. It is very unique what Penderyn do. That total column pot still hybrid is nowhere to be seen. They get flavors out of a cask and a quarter cask in half the time than most other distilleries. And I'm kind of like, the kind of nerdy whiskey side of me goes, that's ingenious.
I've
read up on Faraday stills. They're not cheap.
No,
they are not cheap stills to make. So that's why other people don't have them.
The process of how it works, no. Like, it's, if you look at how Obviously, double distilled, triple distilled. So generally in Ireland it's triple distilled, therefore you get a smoother product. But whoops, it'll remove some of the potential flavorings that you may get if you only double distill, because you've left some of the, I'm not saying impurities, but left some of those elements in there that give off the flavors. I was just going to say, so I had the Coke. I'm going to say, and I know it's been like a going back on memory, I'm going to stick with, I think that when I add Coke, I think Celt and Legend. So Celt, Legend, then Myth. I think Myth is bottom on that. Mm-hmm. I just think Legend blends very well with Coke, but it blends in a way that there is whiskey in there, but it doesn't impart much on it. So if you're looking for that, that works perfectly. Whereas Myth still does impart some of it, but it doesn't impart, for me, the best of flavors. It keeps the elements that aren't the, when you have it, neat flavors. It has the, when you've mixed it with water flavors. But yeah, so I mean, that we've talked a lot of different ratings there, haven't we? We've talked and
to take that, because me and Liam agreed totally there on that last one, is Myth blends very well with Coke. Legend loses itself a little bit. Celtic amplifies it. And I don't know how they've managed that, but however they've done it, that is very unique. I've never had a very slight smoked whiskey that when you've added something to it, it tastes like that. I've never had that. So
I think it's time to just do overall, in the sense of across the levels. So I don't know how we're going to do this, because we're going so different ratings on those and the rest. But overall, for me, if I break it down to not the nose category, but the individual categories of neat, drops of water, and with Coke, I'm going to say that when it comes to both neat and mixed with Coke and soda water as well, I'm going to go Celt. When it comes to mixed with a few drops of water, I'm going to go for Myth. And as I say, because it brings out delicateness in it, which I actually like. When you add a few drops into Celt, it doesn't change it. It's still the same. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, if you add a few drops to Celt, what's going to happen to it? It's still
Liam's froze very slightly. I don't know if that's me or Liam.
gone. Am I back?
I think you're back, mate. Yeah. I was saying to people that I don't know if that's me or Liam, but
I was saying the exact same thing, because I assumed it was me. But yeah, so when it comes to actually mixing it with water, as I said, that Myth just has that delicateness. It changes. It adds that apple. It adds a bit more sweetness to it, but it still has its underlying taste. And that's where that stands out. If you're going to mix a few drops of water, Celt doesn't change. It doesn't change at all. So it doesn't stand out for me. Whereas Myth changes from one item to a completely different. And that's why Myth is top for me. Unfortunately, Legend does fall down bottom overall. But overall, Celt is, for 3 of the categories, top for me. When it comes to water, it's Myth. I know you've only got 3 categories, not 4 like me, sadly. But it should be easier for you to determine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm exactly the same. So the way I would market it, if I was Penderyn, I'd be like, start with Legend, go to Myth, then go to Celt. Or, it's kind of start that way.
Yeah.
In terms of them saying add water to them as a recommendation, I'm not sure I would. I kind of like agree that people like us drink whiskey and will kind of delve into that anyway. You know, it's kind of like we'll obviously add a little bit of water along the way ourselves, but I wouldn't put it as a recommendation for new beginners into whiskey. I would say drink it neat.
Yes.
If you must, add a bit of water, but not add a bit of water as the recommendation for all three, because
it's a bit like work. It's a bit like if you go to a restaurant and they serve you the food, you don't immediately go, I'm going to put salt on it. You taste your food before you decide whether you want extra salt to your flavouring level. If you just get a piece of food and you chuck salt on it, then what are you doing? You've always got to try it neat to decide whether it's something that you like. As I said, I think Myth with a bit of water smells so much better. That the nose is amazing, but the palate is, unfortunately, it hits it. And I would say same with Legend. The only one that's not impacted by that is sort of Kelp. Kelp seems to keep it going. But if you're going to have Myth,
Kelp gets better
the more you mix
the more you actually work with it. I mean, that to me is strange in itself, because you try any Scotch single malt and add water at a mixer, you wouldn't expect it to get better than being neat. So it's kind of plays with your mind a little bit. And
I'm going to leave you to do a quick summary before we go on to the final topic for the night. So I'm going to visit the ladies' room. Yeah, I'm calling
the ladies' room.
Because I'm outnumbered in this place by ladies, so there we go.
So Liam's going to do it, and then when he comes back, I might just dash off for a minute. What I will say is actually Penderyn from Wales. I'd give it a go. I really would. All three bottles of that Dragon series have really come into their own in one way or another. Celt is obviously my and Liam's best kind of choice across neat, adding water, and as a mixer. Followed by probably Myth, then Legend. But even Legend isn't a bad thing, and I would say, considering three kind of 20 centilitre bottles, £30 for a gift pack, it's not that much actually. So I'd recommend giving Penderyn a try. It is one of the only two, maybe three if there's a small distillery in Wales. But I would say give it a year or two, and Penderyn will be challenging Scotch whiskies hands down. They've got a superior product. That Faraday still really gives something to it. That hybrid. I really like some of the distilleries that have kind of those column stills, because they impart more delicate floral flavors. Depends on the accent. But yeah, I think Penderyn have kind of outdone themselves. So well done to them. And Liam says the same, more or less. Liam's back. I'm going to go to the little boy's room. I'm not going to do a Billy Elliot dance this time round.
That's a shame. But
well, you never know. I might do it when it's here. But when we come back, we're going to chat about plans going forward. But I'll let Liam just sum up his little thoughts on Penderyn versus Scotch distilleries, and take it away.
Cool. I'll take it away. I'll talk. So, yeah, for me, I've actually really enjoyed it. To be honest, the whiskies are very pale to begin with. So there was a bit of concern in my head about how pale they were and the impact with them. But as Luke was explaining about the whole process, is that they are going for barrel is what adds that flavour. And for these two, they're using ex-bourbon casks. Whereas for this one, they're using, obviously, a quarter cask from somewhere in Islay, which we think is Lafroig. I'm a smokehead. I love my smoky whiskies. And so therefore, obviously, Celt comes up top for me. But I said, when the drops of water are added and it mixes with the oil in the whiskey, it generally should be giving off a different nose. The Celt didn't change much. And that's why I thought Myth was really good, because Myth completely changed. It brought on a different tone entirely. It moved from its sort of sweetness to actually developing a sort of, I had like sweetness and vanilla, and it ended up going into an area of like, there was toffee, there was butterscotch, and it developed a level beyond that. And that's really what you're expecting. When you add water, it breaks up the oils that are sitting there in the whiskey, and that's what gives the aroma. Absolutely love it. I've enjoyed having their whiskies. First time I've had them, and I mean, for years I've been meaning to buy their actual whiskey, their stamp one, the first ever one they made in Wales. I haven't had it. I probably should try it now. If this is on the international market, which I know Lucas said it is, but Sharky's not seen anything, and it's quite expensive though. And the ones that Sharks pointed out, I'm not quite, I wouldn't recommend, because the ones he's pointed out have been the more barrel aging in like wine, port, and other elements, which detracts, I think, from what these ones are doing. These ones are, I know I don't have the box, but there we go. They're not in there, but there we go. They're really good. Right.
So kind of
how's the little boys
ones
room? You're back now.
Yeah. So the ones that Sharky's talking about is literally like the core range of products that Penderyn are offering. Like we said, these ones have been up since 7 or 8 years. But they kind of go to different countries around the world, saying
you said 50
this
countries.
Is whiskey, this is Wales. Yeah. So we're kind of in a little spot where this is really the marketing tool of Penderyn. But we also wanted a more affordable gift set. So this only costs £30. This has cost the same as one bottle of White and McKay almost. But we
no. That's about 1.5 White and Mackay. 1.5 White and Mackay.
Yeah. Mackay. To be honest, I wouldn't even bother with it. But the way Penderyn have set it up, it is affordable, but it's giving you an insight into what they can do. And like I mentioned earlier, this is Penderyn saying, we're a modern distillery. We don't care about, you can promote as much heritage as you want and give out pure whiskey. We're a modern distillery that thinks our whiskies are much better than yours. And I kind of like them for it. If I was to put it towards a Springbank, I would say 45% of the price of a Springbank was in name itself. It's an old distillery. It does it the old-fashioned way. But actually, when you compare it with taste, it's not 45% better than Penderyn, if that makes sense.
No, it does. But I think, does that lead on to our final subject? Whiskey across our channels. So we've obviously talked about it in the live stream on our end of 12 Days of Christmas. And you probably are aware of this, people that have followed that or seen it. We do have a bit of an adventure ahead, don't we?
Yeah, we do indeed.
But we obviously need your advice and guidance. And I think we may do a few community polls just to get your opinions to decide where we're going to go with this. So the idea is, in April, we are heading off on a whiskey adventure. We're going to be hitting Campbelltown and Islay, potentially a few others as well that are outside that area. But that's the main bulk of where we're going, isn't it? Campbelltown and Islay, we're going to hit all the distilleries, aren't we?
Yeah, and Annandale.
And there is always potential for Jura, but I mean, let's not say that, but we could potentially hit Jura, but who knows? It all comes down to how everything's going. But the idea is how we're going to structure this. When we go to these distilleries, some of them we will do tours of, some of them we will do cask tasting in, other ones we will just do tasting in the warehouses. What are people wanting us to do? Do they want tours of the distillery, like where we've got video footage going through the tour? Do they want to see the tasting of like the core range, tasting of the casks, tasting of whatever we're doing? Do they want after like lives where we were talking about potentially we have some whiskies from the distilleries that day and we do a live that night? Because anything we record is obviously going to be on a lag because it needs to be edited, put together, doesn't it? So yeah. Do you guys want to be more involved of we can be posting things that day and then have a live in the evening so we can bring you in and tell you what's happened, and then the following month we have posted the actual footage? I think it's the idea of how we're going to do this, and the idea of how we do this is all down to you. We sort of want your thoughts and ideas of what you want to watch, what you would look to see.
I mean, I've already talked to a few people and they were like, well, instead of doing just the tours, just tell us about the whiskey. And I kind of get it, because most distilleries, once you're seeing one, you're seeing them all.
I get that.
But that is kind of content for YouTube in a way. You know, doing a tour, we could go to Islay, we could get 9 different videos out of Islay in 9 different videos. And then some people have gone and said to me, well, actually, you know what? Why don't you just go live from each distillery when you're there? Because an hour and a half is,
I think the issue
kind of on the spot is like better than editing.
I think the issue we have is if we go for a tasting, we can't really do a live because we don't have permission from the other people there to do it, and also it's the distillery's land. We would need to seek their permission beforehand. So if we had an individual tasting where it was just us and the camera is pointing at us, then potentially we could get it. But if most of how the tasting works are they have multiple people there. Where it comes to a live is we could ask distillery for permission to do a live taste testing in their shop room area where we have a few and we're in a corner and do that. I get that. And we could do that live entirely. But the actual tasting in the area probably has to be recorded just due to other people. That's my only concern. Like when we're in the shop, we can get permission, we can go into a corner and we can stop people coming to that corner because we're there. But when we're in a live tasting elsewhere, you're going to pick up their voices and And
Liam doesn't know this, that I've actually got live streams already planned across the week.
I think I know already because you told me we were doing lives.
And what we're going to do is we're going to do Team Luke versus Team Liam.
No, I know this because you showed me the bloody banners for it. What are you on about? I know this.
Yeah, the thumbnails were done months ago. It's fine, but we kind of we want a lot of content out of it, and I mean, I'm not monetized. I'm really not that bothered. But you know what? It'd be nice because I'm dragging Liam across that. You know, people really take notice of Liam's channel.
Really?
I've been an advocate of the small channels on YouTube that are doing really well, that don't really get the foot traffic, as it were. I've been shouting about that for the last 6-7 months. You know, and I kind of want to drive it a little bit more. So I'm easy. It's kind of not for me, but I want the content to be good for you that are watching, and also for Liam's show.
I mean, for me, I look at my channel. How often we done 12 days of whiskey. Prior to that, my uploads were in October, I think, and I was uploading in August, September, October, and then before that there was a massive gap as well. I gotta admit I'm not great at uploading content because obviously there's a full-time job behind what I'm doing. YouTube isn't my life. This is more if I go out and film something, I need to find time to edit it, and that's just me. You know, if I go and edit things together, I've lost sort of an evening, and that's an evening the pretend misses won't get. So it's that idea, and then also there's the idea that sometimes I'm just not in the mood for editing. Like yesterday, I went down the pub because I could have edited stuff, but it's the idea sometimes you need release from life. You go meet friends, you go have drinks. So there's a difference between, like, when I was doing stuff during lockdown, no one was going anywhere. We were doing stuff anyways. It was easy to do. Lockdown lifted, it means social life is back, but other things as well. But the idea is I definitely think we should be doing lives because we're sharing what's happening there and then. But there should be some sort of in-depth videos afterwards that we release that isn't just appealing for our core areas, but it's appealing for people beyond that. So people that may want to go visit Isla, what distilleries to go to, because most of them aren't going to visit for the days we're there, and they're not going to do like as hardcore as we are. We're going to hit all those distilleries over very, very small number of days. So we're going to be doing things that most people wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, and when we say like short period of time, it's like 12, 14 distilleries over like 7 days. Like, and not only visiting those distilleries, we want content in between those as well. So I want to do a daily vlog. I'm also going to do some food reviews of some unique, different things on there. And on top of that, we're also going to do our little collab through whiskey, me and Liam together. Liam may record some stuff himself as well for his channel, and then live streams on top of that. So we're kind of not just having a holiday. It's really, it's going to be extremely busy. We're probably going to need a holiday when we come back.
I knew you were going to say that. But I mean, our livers will need a holiday after that. Honestly,
yeah.
we are going to be, the plans that we've got laid up, and I'm going to totally, obviously, Luke's done all the planning. All credit to Luke for everything that's going on here. I've just delegated everything to him. I've took a step back entirely. But Luke has planned everything for this trip, and what we've got lined up. It's an amazing trip personally, isn't it, for us to do?
Yeah.
But we want to produce things that people are going to watch. It's no point us going live and people aren't interested, is it? Or there's no point us, editing, putting up there. We want to produce content that you guys enjoy. I know today's been like 3.5 hours. It's been long, but the idea is, I think the lives that we will do, because they're going to be daily, are going to be a bit more condensed. And potentially it could be 2 lives a day with something live at the distillery and something live afterwards. It could be more than that, because obviously we're visiting more than one distillery a day, but it depends what we're doing at each distillery. But the idea is to put something out in the evening at least that's going to be captured across the US and the Europe market. Sounds weird me saying the word market, but Europe and US, that we can, get the people that watch our channels on those lives, and we can do something that's of interest. And that's where I think the Liam versus Luke comes in, isn't it? But that will be a more
so this whole thing is some people might think, oh, it's a little holiday for Luke and Liam. They're up in Scotland drinking whiskey and having fun.
We are.
To be honest, that's kind of a huge part of it. We want the content out of it. We kind of don't want to really give in and just say, we'll do a live when we get back and, oh, it was great and you should have seen this, that and the other. We really want to delve into stuff. So, if it's kind of absolutely pouring down and you see me and Liam in a kitchen going through a couple of bottles of whiskey that we picked up at a distillery that we've just been to, then that's kind of the way it's going to be. Liam froze again. He'll be back in a second, don't worry. But we're going to try and get a lot of content out in that week. We've got 8 days together, me and Liam. It's the first time we've ever done that length of time together. But we also want to bring the same type of quality to it. Cheers, Mr. Lewis. Cheers, Tantan, if you didn't hear me earlier. But we kind of want to bring that same sense of me and Liam. We've been told that we're good together, and we want to continue that. So,
do you know what happened just there? Sorry, I was hotspotting the whole time. My phone's just died. I didn't have it on charge. So when it was dropping off over when you were talking there, it's because my phone was on its last literal battery. And now I'm just back on the normal internet.
And funny enough, 5 days ago when I planned this live out, I said 3 hours and 45 minutes. We're not that far off it. So
we're not. But I mean, it's. I know it's a live that's quite long, and not everyone will watch that. And people can skip through. What we may potentially do is put some chapters in on the lives after. So if you want Luke, we can put some chapters in so people, if they want to, can skip to the individual tasting elements. But I think the end part is just us sort of telling you what's coming up, ideas that we've got. The idea is hopefully we've got 1 or 2 more whiskey videos before we go out on our whiskey trip. for us, the idea is just to I'm not climatize, but just to get into the whole whiskey element, and just keep that going as we get towards our trip. But also, it's just to sort of lead in and let people know, like, this is what we're doing. We're not saying this is whiskey only channels. There's going to be other elements, as he said, like we are going to cover, and trust me, we are going to cover some of the food out there. One of definite places, pizzeria, we are definitely covering.
Yeah.
But you never know how the day's going. We may just capture an amazing sunset, as I've caught sort of when I was out in the Highlands before. Any sort of content that we can sort of capture, we capture. And I know it sounds like, oh, we're not. We're going on. We are going on a trip, and we're going on experience. It is an amazing experience, but the idea is we do want to try and capture as much as possible to share, and a lot of it is going to be whiskey tasting. And
yeah,
I'm looking forward
and I
to.
will say, if people kind of think, oh, like it's just a little holder that you and Liam have gone on, actually, we've got an extra cameraman. It's already cost us over £400 each, and that's before we even delve into anything. So we kind of we put our heads together and gone, this is what we're capable of. And I know we didn't ask all of you what you wanted, but that's quite hard over 2 channels. But we get the gist of it. And we kind of, we want the whiskey. That's what people want us to, as the collaboration through whiskey. They want to see us together. I can't deny them. I don't know if it's kinky or whatever.
Right, I'm off.
But that's kind of what they want. But there's all the other stuff as well. And if we can do live streams, and
I mean,
we can sit on Maca Beach and try and different kill.
It'd be amazing if we're able to do, and this is all entirely weather dependent and the rest as well. But I mean, if it's indoors, it's indoors. But if we can keep the coffee mornings, like we could do a live coffee morning stream if it's possible. But I mean, that puts a lot of pressure on us because we've got a live late, live early, then we're going to distilleries. But it'll be good if we can do something that's consistent across. But we're not promising anything because, as I say, it's all about feedback from you. What are you looking to see?
Basically, what we're saying is we're going to go live about 3 times a day, every day, and then we're going to have loads of content for 2 months before we get back together and do another call out through whiskey. In a sense, we don't know. I know one on the horizon for me is Yorkshire Day, 1st of August. Yorkshire Whiskey bought a brewery so they could use all the extra mash. Talking about the use for IPAs to create whiskies.
Are you gonna put your Yorkshire whiskey in a Yorkshire pudding? Is that what you're doing on Yorkshire Day?
Well, funny enough,
with a Yorkshire pudding, with Yorkshire whiskey in it, with a Yorkshireman. We're not going to say what he's doing. Is that what's going on?
Funny enough, I am that Yorkshireman, so I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But we want content for you that are watching. We want to push it out there, and most of it will probably be on Travel and Brews.
No, it depends. Like I think like
I want whiskey. I mean, we may even do a beer review up there. I had Islay as a fantastic brewery that does some great ales. So you never quite know.
Didn't that one shut down?
No, it's reopened.
Oh, okay. When I was there 2 years ago, I went to it and I seen the kegs in the area, and I was like, it was like a big craft area that had like art studios and all the rest. And I I could find their empty kegs. I couldn't find their bloody beer. And then someone said to me, "Oh no, they shut down." And I was like, "Damn it!"
Yeah,
But
there's now a rum distillery there as well. So
yes.
the day that we fancy being pirates, we can head to the rum distillery.
But I feel like we're going to offer a variety of showing. Isla is an amazing location. I've been before, but I've never captured footage or anything at all because I wasn't doing it for that at all. There is a lot of footage for us to capture when we're out there just to show you what Isla offers alongside the distillery. And I think a lot of people will be interested in seeing just what Isla is. And you may not go beyond a video that just has an introduction to Isla, but we'll go into other items as well. And it's for you to pick and choose. We'll do the lives. It's up to you to help us guide what sort of live that you're looking for. And yeah, we work from there. And then if that works successfully, then this collaboration will carry on. So we can then extend that. I mean, God knows the Highlands breweries distilleries are spread out, but Speyside, that is one that, I mean, it's crazy. The amount in Speyside.
It is very possible Speyside. Speyside's a place that, it's content worthy and
it's easy to do. You got the cooperage there as well, so how they make and refurbish the barrels that all the distilleries are using, that's amazing to do that. Hopefully, like if we were to go there, we could get some sort of agreement to record some footage and speak with people. That would be great to do. But yeah, Speyside would be the dream. If you guys love what we put out there, Speyside would be next, and then we can narrow down whether we're going Highland, which unfortunately involves the islands and a lot of travel, or whether we go England or Wales or even Ireland. I mean, Ireland probably would be a great one after, but this is all down to what people think and how they like the content, and you dictate the angle on this. Really, you dictate it.
And what I will say is, next month in April, I will be going skinny dipping on a Palm Beach. Liam doesn't know this yet, but it's in the itinerary. It's content. I don't know. But what we want for you lot that are watching and that have been watching for 3.5 hours and more, just to tell us this is what we want to see or we don't want to see. It's entirely up to you. When we come back, we never know. English distilleries at the moment is forever growing. Some fantastic distilleries, but who knows? We could
take it international.
And you know what? You never know that. And you never know that. Me and Liam might even be able to do a US road trip. You never know. It's kind of.
I'm not going to talk about that because there's something I would love to say about that. But yes. I mean, this is all down to you. And then the idea is this is something we can grow on. And there's other elements as well. So I'm not saying it's entirely whiskey based. I've talked with Luke John about some of the other ideas I had. So, I mean, on this channel, I've done, the European trip and then south to north and my abandoned north to south trip. But there are other things that I want to do that are brewery and pub related that I think fits very nicely in with the grand scheme of things. And I think having it as a pair rather than a single works really well because we can bounce off each other doing that. And there's a lot of potential content that we can make of it, but it's all down to what you guys think of it. Right. I'm going to leave Luke to have the final words here.
Yeah. Funny enough, a few days ago, I said 3 hours and 45 minutes. We are just about to hit it. I don't know if that's spooky voodoo stuff or whether I'm very well calculated on what we're going to talk about. I've really enjoyed.
Politician.
Yeah, politician. But I really enjoyed Penderyn. I hope viewers might delve into Penderyn a little bit too. They are a kind of, should I say, new distillery? But actually, they've been around for 24 years. 24 year equals new distillery. And we've really enjoyed them. We hope if you try them too, you enjoy them. Do it kind of the same way we did. Neat water mixer. Have a little bit of fun with them. And that goes with all whiskies as well. You never know. And what I'm going to do, Liam doesn't know this, I'm going to post in chat our little link in case if anybody just wants to join us for a little bit. We're not going to stay for much longer because we've been here too long. But thank you all very much for joining. We've had a great stream. I think we've worked well again together. And we'll see you on the next one, whenever that is. So thank you all very much. We've actually had Australians, Americans, British, and even someone from Argentina in earlier on. So thank you very much.